All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 229 is in full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be with you and for you to be here with us. Whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTubing, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this time as we have a jam-packed, fun-filled, maybe even do some somersault and some backflips types of show for you guys because we have a ton to get to because for the first time in about 7 months, we actually have a Chiefs game of some sort to talk about before it actually takes place. And I think, needless to say, Trevor and I are very excited about that. So strap in, buckle in, guys, and get ready for an awesome show because we're ready to talk with you guys. When I say talk with you, that means that we need to hear back from you guys as well. So if you've not already done it, hit us up on YouTube at the Spoken Podcast. Hit subscribe, hit the notification button. Definitely hit the like button. But most importantly, get in the comment bar with us, guys. Get in the chat. Let us know what you guys have to talk about, what you guys want to talk about, whether it's a question, whether it's a take, whatever it is, however it is. Hit us up on there, guys. Now, get your questions in now. Get your comments in now because when Trevor and I are getting going, man, we want to collect as many of these comments and questions as we can. So when we get to our Speak It segment, guys, we're going to definitely attack that full-fledged and get to you guys and get to as many of you guys as we possibly can. It's been great. Trev, I mean, I know your thumbs over there and your fingers over there have been sore from scrolling down over these last couple of weeks with the amount of conversations we've been having with you guys. Keep that shit going, man, because that's what we're here to do. We're going to get to a lot, guys. We're obviously, like I said, get to the Chiefs and Saints preview that's coming up tomorrow while we're recording this. Sunday afternoon, the Chiefs and Saints will be playing their first preseason game of the 2023 season. We're going to, obviously, like I said, get to speak it with you guys, and we're going to talk with you guys. We're going to be handing out some L's like we always do, guys. We got a lot to talk about. We got with the depth chart for the Chiefs. Like I said, get ready. It's going to be a fun show. But I want to first start with something that is no mystery, the biggest by far story in Kansas City when it comes to the Chiefs. And it's actually starting to bleed into just general entertainment, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. It's obviously has to do with what I know a lot of you are sick of talking about, and trust me when I say I'm sick of talking about it as well. I'm sure Trevor feels the same way, that we want to see a resolution. We want to see this contract extension with Chris Jones get done, and for whatever reason, it's still not there. We're going to theorize on why. We're going to theorize on what's going on and what to expect in the coming weeks. But all I do know, guys, is that I stand firm on everything I've said, every stance I've made on this, and I know I've gotten a lot of pushback, a lot of negative feedback on my takes when it comes to Chris Jones and the Chiefs' relationship and how this is going forward. But if you'll give me a few minutes here to explain my stance, if you've not already seen it on Twitter, or X, or on Facebook, I'm here to break that down for you guys so you can better understand where I stand and why I stand with the Chris Jones situation. I was on Spaces with my guy Mark Gunnels, D-Mac, Jody, and Lexi in the Chiefs community a couple of days ago. And while we were on the Spaces, Chris Jones was actually tweeting. He was actually tweeting about he was doing his Cryptic Chris, as Gary Dieter likes to call him. He was doing his Cryptic Chris situation where he was just saying a bunch of stuff without really saying anything. And you're left to wonder if it has anything to do with what you think it has to do with, which is the Chiefs and him getting re-signed, or extended, rather. Well, one of our friends, Holly, her X handle is @ChiefsNana, N-A-N-A, got CJ to open up a little bit. His initial tweet read, quote-unquote, stay strong and carry on. So, there's really nothing to really take from that. But our friend Holly, like I said, came into the chat, or rather responded to his post and said, Chris, this cryptic tweet is making us nuts. Okay, me. It's making me nuts, LOL. I just need a yes or no, preferably a yes. So Chris Jones immediately responded to that and said, quote unquote, okay, let's dead it. What specifically do you want to know? I have time for one question. So obviously, tons of people are piling in, but that was the question that Chiefs Nana had to ask him about the deal getting done, which is everyone's question at this point. This is Chris Jones's immediate response to that question. "Quote unquote, I'm under contract for one more year. I'm no fortune teller. Let's enjoy this year," with a trophy emoji at the end of it. So despite what the fluff director Michael Bay claims, Chris Jones isn't quitting the team and is expected to report at some point, sometime before the season kicks off. And by the way, Trevor, I woke up this morning to a plethora of texts and mentions of this Michael Bay IG post.
You know my feeling on this, dude.
And I was still convinced while I was looking at it that I was in the midst of a fever dream, because that was one of the weirdest shits I've ever seen in my life, where it felt like something like I was telling you earlier, Trevor, where I wake up and go, dude, I had the weirdest dream where Michael Bay and Chris Jones were hanging out, and Michael Bay had an IG post about Chris Jones leaving the Chiefs. If I said that out loud, that sounds like a fever dream. But that's actually what happened, and I'm not buying into any of it. I don't know why it happened. It's the most random shit ever, like I said, but it's nothing of actual weight, because Michael Bay in his substanceless films would represent that, because there's no substance to really anything Michael Bay does, so I'm not putting any weight into that as well. But I'm fully anticipating, just like everyone else is still to this day, that Chris Jones is going to report at some point before the regular season kicks off, and he will be taking reps, being the guy that we know him to be for the Chiefs. But there is a looming problem when it comes to the Chiefs and Chris Jones' relationship. But it's clear and evident that Chris Jones isn't happy that a deal isn't done. I'm sure the Chiefs aren't either, and I know Trevor and I and most of you guys aren't either. But that doesn't change my confidence meter one bit that the deal is going to get done, because the Chiefs have no choice, and as each day passes, the leverage falls more and more on Chris Jones' side. Why? I know that confuses a lot of people, because you think the team always has leverage in these types of situations. But I beg to differ. Because in the last 32 draft picks, the Chiefs have drafted one interior defensive lineman. One. They didn't trade Chris Jones before the 2023 draft, when trading Chris Jones would have made any sense. There's no replacement, no attempt to replace him. In other words, not paying Chris Jones is no longer an option. They could keep him on the last year of his deal, but that would hamstring their cap with that $28 million cap that he holds. They can give him the franchise tag in 2021, but that would cost them over $33 million, so they would have to hope that they would do a tag and trade, and that someone would be willing to pick that up, and at 30 years old, be willing to pay Chris Jones a long-term deal. They could trade him, but that would significantly hurt their chances to repeat this year, as I've been explaining to people over and over again that have been in my mentions, that have been in my texts, saying, why don't the Chiefs just trade him? That only hurts the Chiefs. That doesn't help the Chiefs right now. Sure, they can get a ton of picks, or a couple valuable picks out of Chris Jones in a trade, but that doesn't help them now. And unless the Chiefs feel they can't win a Super Bowl now, what sense would trading your best defensive player make in this current statute and time? By making statements like, I'm a Chief for life, I will not play for another franchise, we assumed that Chris Jones was the one that painted himself in a corner. But the way the Chiefs have handled this offseason, it's actually it's actually them that is against the wall with a paintbrush in hand. Although I expected this contract extension to be done well over a month ago, I still have no doubts that it will still get done, because the Chiefs, like me, like a lot of us, realize how vital Chris Jones is for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl for the next 3+ seasons. Since 2019, the Chiefs are just 5-3 in games without Chris Jones in the lineup. The quarterbacks they beat in those 8 games, Joe Flacco with the Broncos, Brian Hoyer, Taylor Heineke, Justin Herbert, and Deshaun Watson. Quarterbacks they lost to: Deshaun Watson, they allowed 31 points. Aaron Rodgers, they allowed 31 points. Josh Allen, they allowed 38 points. You could point out to the fact that the Chiefs were still able to beat Herbert and Watson without Jones, but the Chiefs' defense allowed over 29 points per game in those matchups, while the Chiefs' offense averaged 43 points per game. So unless the Chiefs are wanting to party like it's 2018 and place the pressure and responsibility solely on Mahomes and the offense on a weekly basis to get the job done, they have to value their biggest, most important defensive player that's been as reliable as any offensive player outside of Patrick Mahomes. And yes, Chris Jones was on that 2018 defense and was literally the only piece of the puzzle that was playing at a high level with 15 and a half sacks, 19 tackles for loss, 29 quarterback hits, and 49 pressures.
That's good.
He was and continues to be the MVP of the Chiefs defense, and that's not changing anytime soon. The leverage isn't just on Jones' side. The Chiefs essentially made sure that it was. If the Chiefs really wanted Chris Jones to be at camp and accept their offer, they should have drafted an interior defensive line before the 6th round of this last draft. But they didn't. He knows they have nothing to replace him with for at least the next 2 years. The Chiefs made their bed, and Chris Jones is laying in it. Another narrative I want to put to rest is this concern that if and when the Chiefs pay Chris Jones, that means they won't be able to pay Creed Humphrey or Trey Pancake Papa Smith, Nick Bolton, etc. That is not in the slightest bit true. You have to understand that with the money coming off the books, with Chiefs always having these veteran players that come off these contracts, Joe Tooney's contract's coming up. Maybe the Chiefs will try to restructure it, whatever the case may be. Frank Clark's money just came off the books this year. With the cap across the league going up exponentially, the Chiefs are going to have some of the most cap space over the next 2-3 years. With all of that intact, even if you were to pay Chris Jones record-breaking money, that wouldn't put a dent in the chances of paying Creed Humphrey or Trey Pancake Papa Smith or Nick Bolton because of the fact that, again, the money's going to be so substantial in being able to pay these guys. But those guys play positions that on a normal basis don't demand a lot of money. Centers don't make a ton of money in comparison to left tackles. Guards definitely don't either. Middle linebackers in today's NFL don't pull the money that they did back with Ray Lewis's day. They just don't hold the value they once did. So if the Chiefs are still trying to exercise those options, adding Chris Jones to the equation with his money doesn't actually stop them from doing anything they want to do. The fact is, they didn't end up paying Tyreek Hill. They didn't end up having to pay Orlando Brown Jr. They paid real money to only one free agent in Juwan Taylor and then bargain-barreled shop for the rest of the free agency. They have the 3rd lowest paid defense in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is paid. Travis Kelce is paid, and trust me when I say those guys are paid. I know that people think they're underpaid, but Travis Kelce is only underpaid because of the position he plays. He produces like a wide receiver, but at his position, he has the 2nd highest value amongst all tight end contracts. So trust me, Travis Kelce is getting paid. There is no excuse for the Chiefs not to get this contract done with Chris Jones. There's no excuse. If they had to pay big money to Tyreek Hill, if let's say they ended up, bending the knee and paying him $30 million a year, if they would end up getting Orlando Brown Jr. what he wanted, which was a ton of guaranteed money for the first 3 years, I can see this not being a reality for Chris Jones. But see, we all talked about how Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, took a little bit less so their teammates get paid. What are we waiting on then? There's no excuse for this to not get done, even if the Chiefs have to concede a little bit. Now, I know I've told you guys over the last couple of weeks, the Chiefs are hard pressed on this. They don't like to budge on contract negotiations. That makes sense from an outsider looking in when you're trying to get a DeAndre Hopkins. When you have a guy in-house that's put in 6-7 years of elite football for you, there's no excuse not to get that contract done. So, Trevor, I'm gonna stop right here. I want to get your thoughts on what's going on with Chris Jones, because I know we've talked about this so much, and I know we're all getting sick of it, but it feels like there's just this growing tension now. Not that we think that there's now a separation between the Chiefs and Chris Jones. It's just more of, what the hell is happening? What are we waiting on? What is the truth here? Because everyone's so focused on the $30 million a year reported that Chris Jones wants. We're so focused on that, but I think it's really about the guaranteed dollars, the guaranteed years, the difference between how much of a difference is there. Because we saw Nate Taylor's report this week from The Athletic talking about how, the Chiefs aren't willing to make him the highest paid player at his position. Well, Trevor, don't you think that's kind of a non-starter, seeing that Chris Jones never asked to be? According to the reports we do have, we've never once heard that Chris Jones is trying to get more money than Aaron Donald. He says, I want to be paid at least the second highest amongst everybody at my position, which is more than fair, seeing right now he's the best at the position. So actually, you'd be getting him at a value. So this whole non-starter about, the Chiefs aren't willing to pay him that, no one was debating that or not. It was more about, where can you draw the line of, okay, this is where we got to meet Chris Jones. We got to meet him halfway. Like, we want a team-friendly deal, but we still have to pay him what he's worth. And trust me, guys, $30 million a year for a guy at Chris Jones' magnitude at this time and place of the NFL is what he's worth. Quinnen Williams, who's done half of what Chris Jones has done in his career, got $24 a year. So Chris Jones is worth at least $5-6 more million per year, and the guaranteed dollars can be a little bit fluctuated. But like I said, Trevor, I want to get your thoughts on this. Where are you standing on this right now, man? How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's for me. I'm still very much in the camp that the confident camp that a deal will get done. I think a deal will get done before the season starts. I think we solidify Chris Jones as the guy moving forward because, like you've stated numerous times on the show, just again today, we have no other options. We've drafted no replacements for him. They've shown no future plans to have anybody be groomed by him and develop anybody behind him to be that next guy because that is such a valuable position on our defense. He's a pillar not only on this team but in the NFL. The guy was just in the top 10, top 100 players in the NFL. We had three. That's never happened before. So I'm confident a deal will get done. I don't like all this cryptic stuff though, if I'm being honest. It's very passive aggressive. It's just he's just toying with the fans and toying with the emotions of people, and I'm not a fan of that. I prefer forward stuff. If you don't have anything good to say, just don't say it. In my personal opinion, it just feels very childlike, in my opinion. So I don't even pay attention to a lot of cryptic stuff. I see whatever comes up on my timeline because none of it, in the end of the day, none of it matters whether it gets a deal done or not because this is just him playing with fans. That's all this is. Him saying, "Oh, I got time today," or whatever he said to that person on Twitter talking about, "Oh, let's dead this, blah blah blah." He didn't dead anything.
Yeah.
It's like it's nonsense to me, man. It's just him playing with the fans, playing with the emotions of people. And then you got the Michael Bay image and the caption. It's just like it's really childish, and that's the only part that bugs me. I love Chris Jones to death, but this stuff is, with the cryptic Chris title he's earned, I guess it makes sense. But it's as far as back to football, actual football, and what actually matters here for the Chiefs as a fan of this team, I believe he will get a contract extension done. I believe he will be the incredible player that he is this year once again, and I have no real worries. I know a lot of people still are worried, but there's still other players and other teams that need contracts to extension. Like you've talked about, Nick Bosa is another guy no one's really talking about. A guy that hasn't gotten he wants an extension as well. Big names, you know what I mean? So these things tend to get figured out right before the season starts. Before the last couple games of the preseason. A lot of these things tend to smooth out, and I think Veach understands the magnitude of what Chris Jones, the impact he has on this roster. So I think it gets done. I just don't like all this drama. It's a good talking point. It's good for this show. It gives us something to talk about. It's good content. It's good drama, and that's to me that's all this is. So anybody who's out there getting going stir crazy about it and paying attention to every little thing he puts out. It's just crumbs. He's creating a crumb trail for you to follow. Who knows what the result's going to be? But I very much am solidified in the side of he's going to get a deal done. He's always wanted to be a Chief for life. This whole Casey, I love you stuff. Was it a goodbye or was it a re-welcoming kind of situation when he was saying that stuff? It's just all this cryptic stuff just kind of drives me nuts. I don't give it too much attention because at the end of the day, I want to see what the result is, whether positive or negative, and I still am pretty optimistic that Chris Jones will be in the red and gold for years to come. And not to play the devil's advocate, but I think the question that people would ask to the statement of, well, this is all it's all a bunch of nothing. Because I do believe that Chris does some things and says some things for attention or just to get people hyped up but at the same time, I think there is some substance to what is happening because of the fact that at the end of the day, whether Chris Jones gets his big contract extension or not,
he's lost over $1 million
Right.
due to fines.
By choice.
Exactly.
Yes.
So my point is, what would be the reason of him doing that if he knew that, hey, look, we're going to get this deal done? Like, why don't you just come to camp and sit in or hold in where you're like, oh, hey, I got a little bit of a tweak. I need to go sit out over there. And you're not getting fined because you're at camp. There's a lot of people that have asked me this question, Trevor. And for me, like, the only thing I could even use as a rebuttal was the avoidance of an actual injury, because we saw Joe Burrow get injured a couple of weeks ago. Now it looks like he might miss some actual real football time. So maybe Chris Jones isn't trying to have some situation like that, knowing he plays a much more physical position than Joe Burrow does. So maybe that could be the case. But outside of that, there really isn't any legitimate reason for Chris Jones to not be at training camp if this is just a bunch of nothing. Because if this is just a bunch of nothing and the Chiefs and him are both going, look, we both know we're going to sign the deal. It's not a big deal.
I'm not saying that's what's happening.
Then he'd be in Kansas City.
Yeah,
He'd be
yeah.
in Kansas City 4 weeks ago.
No, I'm not saying that this is a bunch of nothing. It's just it's all a non-answer.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
Like this is him just playing with the emotions of the fans. He maybe he's uncertain. Maybe there's an uncertainty right now between the two parties, but I still feel like they're going to figure it out.
Right.
Right. So I know it feels like a breakup right now that everyone's taking kind of a hiatus in this relationship, but I'm still very, very confident that mom and dad are going to come back together.
Sure.
Right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just don't like the crypticness, and this is something he's done for a long time. Certain players have this. They kind of like that attention. They kind of like to see the squirmish between the fans and then the back and forth, or feeling out a feel out process, whether the fans are on his side or on the Chiefs side, who's on his side, blah blah blah. So when he does figure things out, whether it's here or somewhere else, he understands who was there on his side or whatever. He's
definitely been liking my opinion. Let me just put it like that.
Sure.
I saw the
Because,
likes.
we're Chris Jones super fans here, man. We're on the Chris Jones side here. We want him here. This guy has been. He's going to go down as an all-time great, man. Possibly a top 5 all-time Chief if he keeps this trajectory going and he finishes out his career strong here. I'm very confident, man, that he's going to end this on a positive note. I get the questions. I get why people would want to know why, if this wasn't a big deal, he wouldn't be doing all this cryptic stuff, which it is still a big deal. But I'm just confident myself. I still believe that here in the next coming weeks that there will be a deal done and everyone can just breathe, because this distraction cannot linger into the season.
But you've been somebody that I know has said, and you've even gone out and went as far as go on Twitter or on X, which Trevor's not a big, tweet guy or an X guy. By the way, go follow him at Trev the Spoken, so maybe he'll start actually, applying himself on that one.
I'm not on there much, man.
But Trevor went as far as to actually tweet out something that you said in regards to the money.
Yeah.
Say it real quick, Trevor. What you think he's going to get or
I
not get?
I said no one's paying him $30 million a year.
Why?
And he's going to budge, and he's going to be a Chief.
Okay, here's my question, though, because I think you would agree. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you would agree that the guaranteed dollars and guaranteed years is much more of a anchor in all of this than the actual annual value.
It's the
correct?
security behind it, yes.
Okay, so what would really be the difference to you, Trevor? So you're saying he ain't going to get $30 million a year, but I could see him getting 28.
Let me say this. I still think. Listen, I know we're Chiefs fans, and I don't think this is a rose-colored glasses situation. I do think right now Chris Jones is better than Donald, but I think if you ask fans across the league, it's not a question. Aaron Donald's still the better player.
Yeah, and to that point, so this is what I was at. The reason I'm asking the question is, to that point, we saw this last offseason, Aaron Donald got that extension, and we saw he's making $31.6 million a year. Not a single soul was out there going, oh, what the hell were the Rams thinking? Why did they do that?
Right.
The only reason people are doing that now is because the Rams had a historic level of injuries last season, Aaron Donald included. Mm-hmm. But had the season went the way all of us were anticipating it would for the Rams, where you had them in the Super Bowl or in the conference championship.
Loved the Rams last year.
Yeah, I had them going 12-5 as a wild card team. Like, we all anticipated that Aaron Donald's going to stay on task and do what he does. And who's to say this next season he doesn't play?
He still played well.
Yeah, he's still an awesome player.
Yeah.
This is the point I'm trying to make to people about the annual value portion of this, is that when Aaron Donald got that on a team that just won the Super Bowl, no one said a thing, and he was almost 31 years old at that time. Chris Jones just won the Super Bowl, is 29, and is asking for less than that, and we're questioning that. Think about how wild that is.
But this is where it comes back to my point of the breakdown of what the goals are for the Chiefs and what the goals are for the Rams. The Rams had an all-in season where they accomplished the end goal there that year.
Yes.
But I know that last year was the injuries, but I don't think anyone really thought that they would be a Super Bowl team, in my opinion. I mean, maybe some, sure.
Last
Maybe,
year?
yeah. I mean,
Dude, a lot of people picked the Rams to go back to the Super Bowl.
I liked them a lot, but I never thought that they would actually get back to that.
You had them deep in the playoffs, though, didn't you?
Sure.
Yeah. I had them in the divisional round.
But as far as like the long game, the trajectory, the dynastic run that the Chiefs are trying to develop, there's gonna be trade-offs, right? There's gonna be you're gonna have to choose. Just like I said with the Patriots, when they let a lot of big names go, like, oh my God, I cannot believe they let them go. And yet they're continuing their playoff run. They're continuing their dynastic run as far as winning Super Bowls with or without those players. Granted, they had a little stint there where they didn't go to the Super Bowl, but there's always going to be trade-offs with teams that want to stay atop, right? And granted, I don't think that's what's going to happen. Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones is such a massive part of what we do here and what our team, how our team operates, especially defensively, with a lot of the inexperience we have on that defensive side right now. But at the same time, man, like we're trying to. This is something we're not used to still, right? So if we're willing to let like Tyreek walk, granted Tyreek wanted out, we still wanted him here. We were still willing to pay him, but letting Orlando Brown go when we could have paid him, the thing we couldn't get to agree, so we walked away and we went and won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Or we went and won a Super Bowl with him, and then we let him walk. You know what I mean? So we're in a different scenario than what the Rams were with Aaron Donald, in my opinion, because they solidified him, they got him set in that, and then they built around that, and then they went and got Stafford, and they won the Super Bowl. I get it, and then they fell apart last year. But there's this with Chris Jones, man. I still feel like I don't think anyone else is going to pay him what he wants, let alone the Chiefs. I think he's going to get a deal done, and it's going to be a really solid deal. I just don't think he's going to get all that money. I don't think he's going to get the guarantee that he probably wants. It's going to be good, but I don't think he's going to get the guarantee that he wants. I don't think so.
And let me just say this, though, in regards to the comparison between the Chiefs and the Rams, because we hear the Chiefs get compared to almost all the time between the Patriots dynasty and the Rams and how they've built their team and how the Chiefs have to focus on building the roster like the Patriots did.
Right.
Well, the problem with that, though, is the Chiefs can never replicate how the Patriots did it. Because not only did the Patriots win 3 of their 6 Super Bowls over 2 decades ago, or 2 decades ago exactly, but it was also because they had a 6th-round quarterback. Tom Brady was making no money.
Sure.
And they had a defensive genius leading a defensive-minded team.
It was like a flip-flop of what the Chiefs are doing. We're
Yes.
an offensive-driven team. They were already the best defense of that era.
It was completely different.
Sure.
Where Belichick could get away with letting a guy like Chris Jones walk because he could replicate that on the defensive side. That's why the Chiefs could let Tyreek Hill walk because they knew they could replicate that with Andy Reid's mind.
I agree with that.
So my point is it's very different how these teams are built and how they can approach this. Second of all, when it comes to the Rams comparison, it's not really that far off, though, because think about it. Once the Rams, because Jared Goff was like the Alex Smith, right? They got off of him, went to Matt Stafford, which is the Patrick Mahomes for them. What happens the moment that happens? They finally have that success they were looking for, and they won the Super Bowl. So when you look at the way this team's built, look at the Rams right now, Trevor. Who would you say are the 3 catalysts to leading the Rams to any success this next season? Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and who? Aaron Donald.
Sure.
If you look at the Chiefs, who are the 3 catalysts to help the Chiefs win at any level this year? Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones.
Sure.
So they're actually built rather similar. They might not be as good in some areas and something like that, but the
timelines
blueprint
are
is there.
different where
but the
they're at
blueprint is
in those
there,
careers.
though.
Sure.
They're led by an offensive-minded head coach who's a genius. Stafford, at his best, is a top 5 quarterback in this league, and I don't care what anybody says. Patrick Mahomes is obviously way better than him, but the point remains. Cooper Kupp and Travis Kelce are on that same tier when it comes to just being absolute reception hogs and being able to be reliable in the route game and being the route tree being insane. And Aaron Donald and Chris Jones are the 2 best guys in that position, bar none. So you have to look at it the same way, Trevor. Yes, the Chiefs are able to draft guys at a different level than the Rams are because the Rams traded all their draft picks away. They were far more careless in how they did things. But at the end of the day, these 2 teams win off of the backs of these 3 players. Because we could both agree that if the Rams didn't have Aaron Donald in 2021, they don't win the Super Bowl. If the Chiefs don't have Chris Jones in 2022, they don't win the Super Bowl.
Sure, I think they're built. The situations are similar as far as like what skill players are like the dependent players on that team. The quarterback,
they're star players.
The receiving player, the star receiving player, which is Kelce and Kupp, and then Aaron Donald and Chris Jones. I get, but like you said, like they traded away all their assets. The Chiefs traded away a asset and got a bunch of assets and built around that, and then won a Super Bowl that very year. It's just our trajectories are way different here. Yeah. They have a quarterback that's on his way out, if we're being honest. Has become a turnover machine lately, and is just consistently banged up with bad elbows and shoulders. So that's just a whole different thing. Granted, Stafford's still great, But that's a whole different thing. The coach is talking about retirement every season. It's like it's a whole different thing, man. And what the Chiefs are doing here, we're trying to win Super Bowls moving forward. Andy Reid is in the prime of his career. Towards the end of his career, he's in the very prime of his career. So it's a whole different thing, in my opinion. And I say all that to circle right back to my point where I am very confident that Chris Jones will be a Chief for life. I do not see Chris Jones ever wearing another jersey in the NFL. We can hype up all this cryptic stuff. We can talk about the Michael Bay post and the whatever that even means.
Yeah.
The randomness of all that.
I think it means we're living in a simulation.
I just think it's all bullshit. I think it's all bullshit, man. And I think we just bite into it too much. We live too much on social media. We take every little thing as some kind of clue, and sometimes it's just bullshit. Sometimes it's just him having fun and just posting stuff to rile people up. And I think that's what it is. And I know he wants to be a Chief. I know the Chiefs want him. Veach has said that much, and everyone at camp and Patrick Mahomes, everybody's gloated on him and talked about how important he is to this team. They're going to figure it out. I fully believe that. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I fully believe a deal gets done before the season starts, and he's playing at his level that we expect him to play at.
Well, while the Chris Jones extension continues to be the focus of the Chiefs camp and the Chiefs offseason, something that's beginning to concern me a little bit, Trevor, or a lot of it if we're being honest here, is L'Jarius Sneed's knee injury. That's kept him mostly out of practice completely since July 29th. And if we're being honest here, we heard about this being a concern back in June when the Chiefs were doing OTA stuff and doing workouts and things of that nature. They're talking about L'Jarius Sneed's knee injury and how it's having this there's inflammation, and they've been like juicing it. They've been literally drawing water out of it, fluids out of it. The Chiefs might be deep at cornerback. But make no mistake about it, they're a much deeper team with 38 special healthy, man. Like, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
My hope is that this is all just precautionary, and that they're simply keeping him off of it until real games begin. We see that all the time with veteran players. I mean, even though he's only 27 years old, we see this. It's a common practice for you to ease into the season for guys like that have knee injuries or lower extremity injuries, things of that nature. But the fact that they've been reportedly, like I said, draining the fluid from his knee is bothersome when the entire season is still ahead of him. We're not even. If it'd be one thing, if it was like week 8, week 11, and they're starting to deal with that, he can just kind of push through. The season hasn't even started yet, and he's already dealing with this. As much as I believe that the 2023 season will be Sneed's final season with the Chiefs, I know he plays a very important role in turning this defense into a top-tier unit with his elite versatility and veteran experience. Whether it's in KC or in another city, having a big 2023 campaign is pivotal in getting Sneed paid in 2024. And speaking of Sneed's future, Brett Veach has tendencies in how he builds the roster, especially on defense. One of the most consistent ways of building the roster has been drafting cornerbacks and not spending long-term money on veterans at that position. This is something he's infamous at now, yes.
I love it.
Which is why this will be L'Jarius Sneed's final season in Kansas City.
I agree.
Sneed is not only a fan favorite, but one of the best players the Chiefs have had since 2020, without question.
I got him on the wall. Love that guy, man.
He is one of the most versatile defenders in the league and is wildly underrated. So in most cases, it would be common sense for the team that he plays for to get a long-term deal done. The problem is, Sneed plays for one of the few teams that doesn't want to spend money at that position. Every team has to be cheap at certain positions, and the Chiefs have chosen cornerback because of Veach's ability to find value late in the draft or in free agency there. It's also the fact that the Chiefs are a quarterback-reliant team. This is why they were more than okay with letting guys like Charvarius Ward walk after the 2021 season. They knew that Ward was valuable, but his value in KC, as opposed to a place like San Francisco, was significantly different. The Chiefs knew they were never going to pay Ward anything close to the $40+ million that the Niners gave him, and the Niners gave that to him gladly because they're not a team that has the luxury of an elite quarterback making up for the lack of solid veteran quarterbacks like Charvarius Ward. This is exactly how I expected to go for L'Jarius Sneed. And honestly, it shouldn't shock any of us if and when it does. Not only have the Chiefs not extended Sneed to this point, there have been zero news reports of them even discussing the potential of getting an extension done. Yeah. We're hearing nothing about it. You could say it's due to the Chiefs again, and Chris Jones' negotiation and all the cryptic stuff around that. And Chris Jones obviously being the player he is, which is a far more valuable player than even L'Jarius Sneed, which is fair. But if Sneed really is as valuable to the Chiefs as some assume, why wouldn't the Chiefs get this deal done amidst the CJ snag and contract talks? Because good PR is good PR. If the Chiefs do decide to pay Sneed, I will not be opposed to that decision, but I would be surprised because it would go against everything Veach has done for 5 years now. Staying young and cheap at cornerback has not only worked for the Chiefs, it's become a common sense maneuver. This doesn't have to be a negative thing either, for either side. For the fans even, because I know, again, people love L'Jarius Sneed. But if this is his final season, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. The Chiefs having Sneed on a contract year suggests that his best will not only be on display this season, and if his best is what he brings, there is no question that a team would be willing to pay him that he's more than what he's worth, and they will emerge in the 2024 season. There's no question about it. Guys like L'Jarius Sneed aren't just growing on trees. And him being as cheap as he has been to this point, still being young enough, if a team says, hey, look, man, we can have L'Jarius Sneed and he can fill 2 needs for us next season, they're gonna go out there and gonna pay him the money. And as I've always told you guys time and time again about the Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed, and why I'm starting to lose this hope that he will be here, is because the Chiefs continue to win games without him. Again, the Chiefs are 8-1 in games without Sneed since 2020. That's not including the Week 17 game versus the Chargers in 2020 when the Chiefs rested their starters. One of those games was played in the 2022-2023 AFC Championship when he only played 4 snaps, leaving the rookies in with McDuffie, Watson, Williams, Cook, and they forced 2 interceptions on Joe Burrow. Sneed is a valuable player, but in KC, he is replaceable, and the Chiefs have shown us that they have been preparing and are prepared to replace him after the 2023 season. Considering the fact that the Chiefs have drafted 7 defensive backs since last draft in 2022, last 2 drafts, they've drafted 7 defensive backs. Sneed still quietly sits with 1 year left on his rookie deal. The writing on the wall looks to be painted with neon colors because it's clear as day that the Chiefs have a long-term plan and Sneed's not in it. Trevor, what are your thoughts on the whole L'Jarius Sneed thing? His injury, his long-term future here with Kansas City, how do you see it going?
Yeah, we continue to win games without him because we were especially last year so good at getting after the quarterback because of a guy named Chris Jones. So that shows you how valuable he is to keep him around if we do in fact lose L'Jarius Sneed. So can't lose both of those guys. But as far as the knee goes, man, yeah, this is a very unfortunate. He's probably just gonna have to be popping ibuprofen all year and playing through it. When there's consistent fluid buildup and there's possible tendonitis in the knee. Maybe.
Yeah, you've had knee problems, Trev.
It's ongoing. Yeah. So I'm 34, but my knees are 74. Let me tell you. But yeah, it sucks. I do agree that this is his last year, and it sucks even more for him as a player, as an individual, that this is happening in his contract year.
Right.
This is his best chance to put together a catalog, a resume, heading into whatever his next suitor is. Right, so it's unfortunate seeing injuries like this. It could get better. It could clear up. This is if he's going to get an injury out of the way, it's before the year gets going rather than later in the season. But we've seen him deal with nicks and things during the year, missing games here and there. But man, his skill set. Any team can use that guy's skill set. He's one of those guys that any team would love to have on their roster. He's a do-it-all guy. He's a guy that can play great in coverage, a guy that cracks, can lay the wood, and a guy that can get after the quarterback maybe better than any corner in the league. Love the guy. So he's extremely valuable. I don't want to see him go, but unfortunately, like I talked about trade-offs, there's always trade-offs, especially when you're trying to continue having a young roster that's cheap, especially on the defensive side. He's not young anymore. He's still young enough, but he's not a young man anymore. He's as far as football years, and he's already getting banged up before the season starts. And he's going to demand somewhat decent money at his position come free agency. So I do expect him to be gone next year, and I really hope he can put together a great season this year and remain healthy for his sake, let alone for the Chiefs' success, because he's a big part of that. But for his sake, I hope he can get his knee. Hopefully he doesn't need surgery, because if he gets surgery, he's going to miss probably half the season, most likely, if not all of it. Sometimes certain knee surgeries can cost you, several months. But I think he would have been, if he knew he needed surgery, I think by now they would have probably done something like that. But maybe a quick scope, keep him out a few weeks. But if it's just inflammation and a fluid buildup, that's something you can play through. To take some some NSAIDs, some ibuprofens and stuff like that to keep the swelling down post game. But a lot of times, sometimes you got to play through. I know a lot of basketball players, and myself included, anybody who played a lot of basketball or soccer, a lot of running, moving around. Your knee builds up fluid after you're done doing all that. Once you're sitting around after the fact, after the activity. So I'm guessing that's what he's dealing with. But yeah, knee issues are not something you can play around with, man. And I hope. We haven't gotten too much information on it, honestly, just because it's overshadowed by the Chris Jones stuff that's going on. But as far as contractual things go, I think everyone can kind of agree that this is it for him here, especially how we cycle out, like you alluded to, how we cycle out cornerbacks at that position. So yeah, I think most likely he'll be wearing a different jersey next season. I'm just hoping he can give us his best this season and remain healthy this season, so we can have our best shot at another Super Bowl. But love the guy, man. He's an all-time guy for us during this run for sure, and what he's done for this roster and how valuable he's been for Spags on that defensive side. So all I can hope is he gets better and puts together a great season this year for him moving forward for whoever he plays with the following coming seasons.
Yeah, and that's my hope too, because like I said, having L'Jarius Sneed healthy is going to only help this team even more so.
Man, yeah.
We believe this secondary is going to be nasty regardless of Sneed's status.
Yeah.
But he is by far the most versatile corner they have on this team. He can play safety. He played safety in
One of the most
college.
versatile in the league, man.
Yeah, he's a great corner, slot corner. He can play on the outside. He can lock dudes up. I mean, he's a long, tall corner. Those are the kind of guys that Spags loves. Those are the kind of guys that most teams would love to have. And that's why, like I said, having him out there is only going to help things. And I think the development of Trip McDuffie, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson is only going to put more pressure on L'Jarius Sneed, because if he is trying to stay here in Kansas City, he's going to have to show that, look, I'll battle through this injury. And again, I don't know the severity of it. All I do know is it's been bad enough to keep him out of practice on a consistent basis.
They haven't given us too much detail,
right?
On him or Kadarius Toney.
Well, yeah, I think we know with Kadarius because he had surgery. We know the severity of his. But with L'Jarius is we just see that he's just not practicing. And that is growing. That's becoming worrisome. If he's out for a couple of practices, I'm not tripping on it.
Yeah.
Because we saw Mike Danna miss some time with the calf strain. Now he's back.
I don't care if he doesn't play at all in the preseason.
Yeah,
as long as he's ready to go.
Like we've seen other guys have injuries in training camp and they come back within a few days to a week.
Yeah.
The fact that this has been a 2-week problem and it even predates training camp. This is something I'm very much worried about. And like I was saying, it really sucks because, McCole Hardman was in line to get paid last season. And the way he was playing, it looked like he was going to get paid this offseason. And then he gets hurt and misses half the season. Couldn't play most of the postseason. And then he got a 1-year, $4 million deal with the Jets. Now he ended up with a good team, but the point is he didn't make his bank like we were hoping we'd see him get. Yeah. Now with L'Jarius Sneed, it looks like that is what this season's starting to be. Now, hopefully, like I said, there's just a precautionary movement for the Chiefs, and they say, look, just let the knee rest as much as it can, and then we'll get you out there. The good thing is they can have him in rotation this year, but that does drop his value in the market this next coming up season. So it could be a blessing in disguise because the Chiefs say, hey, look, we want to keep L'Jarius. Your market's dropped. We're not going to pay you heavy dollars. We knew the Chiefs weren't going to anyway. If you're serious about staying here and trying to continue to build a dynasty with us, take this offer. It's going to be a team-friendly deal. You had some knee problems last year. We don't know if it's going to prolong. Stay with us or go test the market and see what happens and see if somebody's willing to pay you. You'll go with a team that's going to win 6-7 games next season, but you will make $13-14 million a year.
Yeah.
That's the possibility he's looking at. Like I said, for Sneed's own future, monetarily, for his family's wealth, for all that, I hope he can be able to ball out this year. And again, if he balls out this year, this defense is going to be a top 10 defense. Because if L'Jarius Sneed, Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, these guys are doing what they normally do, whenever Charles Omenihu comes back 6 weeks from the beginning of the season, this will be a top 10 defense if all those guys are clicking. But they got to have L'Jarius Sneed out there. I'm not worried, like I said, I'm not worried about the young guys because I think they've established themselves. But adding him to the equation just makes this secondary that much more deadly. And I really hope it pans out. I hope it really works out, man. And I think that's something we're gonna have to really pay attention to. We're gonna get to a couple more segments here, guys, quickly before we get to you. So, like I said, I see the chat's filling up right now. So keep filling it up, guys. Let us know what questions, what concerns, what takes you guys have, and we will get to them in a second. I want to give you guys my reaction. I want to get Trevor's reactions to the current unofficial Chiefs depth chart that's going into the first week of preseason. So we saw that Matt Derrick released the unofficial, but it is something to talk about, depth chart. The Chiefs have a few quick thoughts on my own, and if you've not seen it, go to my Twitter account at Lance the Spoken, and you will see it on there. You'll see the picture on there as well, or go to Matt Derrick as well and see if he has it on there as well. But Justin Ross is third on the wide receiver depth chart behind Richie James. Justin Watson is second behind NVS on the other side. So obviously you have your two wide receiver sides, and on one side, Justin Ross is third behind Richie James, and Justin Watson second behind NVS. This could mean something, or it could mean nothing. The Chiefs gave Watson a 2-year deal this offseason. They clearly trust him. They clearly like Justin Watson. I'm not the biggest fan, but I've been somebody that says he's going to make the team because of what I just said. The Chiefs trust him, and when Andy Reid trusts a player, they more than likely make the team. But Justin Ross, has shown so much more upside this year. You guys know I was a guy that did not predict Justin Ross to make this roster. I thought he was a project at best. He's an injury-prone player. Our guy Shaggy Shane and other people have been pushing and pounding the table saying, no, this guy has to make the roster. He's talented enough. He'll do what he needs to do. Well, upside is what makes this wide receiver room what it is, because we don't have anything, as we've been talking about all offseason, anything that's proven outside of MVS, who's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 at best. Mm-hmm. So this whole entire offseason has been about wide receiver potential. So if we're going to go off wide receiver potential as to what builds this wide receiver room, what makes it what it is, then you need to keep Justin Ross. So my vote, if it comes down to the Justin versus Justin here, I'm taking Justin Ross over Justin Watson. I know the Chiefs trust Justin Watson, but I would rather have the upside of Justin Ross if, in fact, he is what he looks to be in training camp. If what I'm seeing out there right now for myself, I told you guys in a few episodes ago that I watched it for my own self. Justin Ross should make this roster. I think he's going to make this roster now, and I think it's going to come down to Justin Watson and him, because I think the Chiefs are only going to keep 6 wide receivers, even though a lot of people out there think they're going to do 7. I think Andy Reid sticks to his guns, does what he does best, and keeps 6 wide receivers, and I think Justin Ross will be in there. Tranquil is now stationed behind Willie Gay Jr., Drew Tranquil behind Willie Gay Jr. That isn't something I'm focused on too much. Seeing Tranquil will be all over the field. I think he's going to be a jack-of-all-trades player, kind of like a L'Jarius Sneed. Mm-hmm. We know that Tranquil last year with the Chargers alone had 5 sacks, had like 146 tackles, a bunch of broken-up passes.
Great against the run, too.
2 interceptions. Like, this is a guy that's all over the field, so I'm not really tripping on him being behind Willie Gay Jr., but also, Trevor, and I told you this is one of my breakout players. Leo Chenal showed some serious progress at the end of last season, so I'm also not shocked to see him in his starting role.
A lot of snaps.
Dude, in the depth chart right now, he's a starter.
Yeah.
So he's one of my breakout players of 2023, him and Brian Cook.
Yeah.
I think both these guys are showing, and Brian Cook's also in a starting role. So unofficial, but it looks good. Something that I think is absolutely laughable about the depth chart right now is FAU being third. At the end. I think that's absolutely laughable. I remember when Patrick Mahomes in 2017 was third on the depth chart at the beginning, the first unofficial depth chart. That was hilarious,
A lot of people have been kind of negative about him coming out of camp.
This is what pisses me off, is that you can't truly gauge pass rushers in training camp. You can't hit the quarterback. Like, what am I supposed to look at? Okay, he's got a quick release. Oh, he's a little slow off the line. Okay, you can look at that stuff, but when you know you can't hit the quarterback, naturally, your instincts aren't going to be firing off. Yeah. You're not going to be doing what you normally would be able to do. I'm going to look at what FAU is going to do in these other pass rushers in these preseason games. I'm not worried about FAU. I think he's going to be a stud. And this whole being on third on the depth chart thing does not bother me whatsoever. This team, because here's the biggest thing. As we know, Charles Minhu's out for the first month and a half. This team is going to need FAU, and they're going to need him big and quickly. I'm not reading into this one bit at all. I don't think this is a thing. I don't think this is news, but I still wanted to address it because a lot of people are asking, hey, is there a reason for concern? No, I'm not worried about it at all. Knowing that Deneric Prince is almost certainly making this roster, him being fourth behind Pacheco, McKinnon, and CEH tells me that the Chiefs believe, as I do, that keeping 4 running backs is the way to go. I definitely think they're going to keep all 4 running backs. Yeah. I know there's a negative cloud over Clyde because he was a first-round pick, but if you look at Clyde, when he's played, he's been a very effective and productive player.
And he has Pat's trust. That's
yes.
Huge, man.
He played half the season last year and had 6 touchdowns. Yeah. This is a productive
scrambling play
player.
where Pat flipped it to him, bro. Those are the kind of guys you want to keep around Pat because he has trust.
Yes, you saw early in the season, Clyde was one of the pivotal pieces to the offense. I don't think that's going to change. I think Clyde's still going to get his snaps. He will make this roster. And there's no reason to think that all 4 tight ends won't make it because of the fact that Andy Reid loves using the 12-13 personnel. Now, there is a debate about Jody Fortson.
Yeah.
We know that the number 49, his name is slipping. Bushman? Is it Bushman?
Something like that. I think it is. Yeah. Something like that.
I know he's been emerging.
Yeah.
So even if they were to say, hey, look, Jody, we're gonna let you go, but you can make the practice squad if you clear waivers and all that stuff, which he probably would. We're going to keep Bushman instead. Either way, I think 4 tight ends are making this roster. I think you'll have 4 tight ends, 4 running backs, because I've been telling you guys for the last few weeks, I think the running back and tight end position is going to matter just as much in the passing game as the wide receiver room this year, because you don't have the luxury of a Tyreek Hill or Juju Smith-Schuster being there leading the way. So you're going to have to rely on Jerick McKinnon and Deneric Prince. I think Deneric Prince is going to have a pretty decent season this year if he stays healthy and all those things.
He's returning. Is he returning punts or kicks?
They've been using him in the special teams a little bit in training camp. I think though that he's
done good at that.
He's going to be a guy that you're going to see when the 2 running backs are lined up instead of a fullback. You're going to see like a Deneric Prince and a Jerick McKinnon, a Deneric Prince and Isaiah Pacheco. You're going to see those pairings.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He didn't do that a lot in college, but he's been doing it a lot in training camp. I think he's emerging as a
Most
catch
running backs
option.
nowadays are kind of prepped to do that.
You have to have a dual threat.
You got to be, yeah.
And one final thing, Trevor, and I want to get to you. So you guys know the player that I liked the most out of this draft class for the Chiefs was Keandre Coburn. He's had kind of a slow go in training camp, and he's currently at the 3rd spot at defensive tackle behind Derek Nottie and Danny Shelton. But this doesn't shock me either, because of the fact that both Danny Shelton and Derek Nottie are veteran players that have been in this defense for at least a year. Danny Shelton is still a little new, but he was there last year with the Chiefs. Derek Nottie's been with the team since 2018.
Yep.
I'm not expecting Keandre Coburn to be at the 3rd spot though for long. I'm fully expecting Coburn to climb the depth chart throughout the preseason because he's going to show in these games, and I'm very much watching my guy Keandre Coburn close. He's going to show what he's made of in these next 3 games. I truly believe that. I think he's going to be an impact player for this team. I'm not saying he's going to be second on the team in sacks or stuffs or tackles or anything like that. I think he's just going to make some impact plays on 3rd and shorts, 3rd and longs, things like that. That's where you're going to see Keandre Coburn do what he does best. If you go watch his Longhorns film back in Texas,
Beast.
This guy is an absolute. He muddies the waters in the middle of the offensive line, defensive line, the interior of things, and I very much think he's going to climb that ladder. Danny Shelton is a big body. I thought he was a guy that would make the roster last year. Didn't really do much. I think he's a camp guy.
He's a late addition.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Derek Nottie's clearly going to make the team. He's very familiar with the defense. They like him. They trust him. But I definitely think that Keandre Coburn at worst will be the 2nd guy at the defensive tackle position.
And he's a rookie, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I putting too much pressure on these rookies. Granted, the Chris Jones stuff isn't helping. It's kind of putting a little bit more pressure on Felix and these guys that are kind of maybe get their chance a little sooner than they expected.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there any other positions you want to talk about, or are those?
No,
okay?
go. Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts or reactions are. My stances on these are, or because the wide receiver room is still something that everyone's paying attention to.
Yeah.
The linebacker room, because it's so deep. Where are pieces going to be put? Defensive tackle with Chris Jones still not there right now. We obviously assume he'll be there, but what's going to be around him is the
There's
question.
been some decent hype around Richie James too, as far as like kick returns and special team stuff, and him being a deep threat too is something I didn't really expect, honestly.
Right.
I've been hearing things about him, being a decent field stretching kind of guy. So he seems to be solidified in a wide receiver spot for the Chiefs.
There's no way Richie James doesn't make this roster.
Right.
He's making this roster.
Yeah, I mean, we signed him for a reason. We brought him over for a reason. And I like Richie James. He's a seasoned guy. He's been a part of some good offenses. Never really has performed really well in his season. Never had many significant moments in the NFL. He's had a couple scores here and there, but I think he's a good fit for this offense, though. He's we like those versatile guys that can be used in special teams, gadget plays, trick plays, all kinds of different things that Andy Reid draws up for those kind of guys. But yeah, I'm interested to see. I think what we haven't discussed much yet so far, or at all today yet, is the offensive line too. And a guy I'm very interested in watching this weekend to see what his snaps look like with Wanya Morris. Because I think as of right now on the depth chart, he's the backup left tackle.
Prince, Tego, Winogo, and him, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they're fighting for that backup left tackle spot. So, I mean, and he's, the guy that could possibly be the guy filling it if anybody goes down, you know what I mean? So I'm really interested to see what he's made of. I know he's played alongside Trey Smith, which I like. I like that there's that camaraderie and that built-in kind of chemistry there between those two guys on both sides of the offensive line if he does get a chance to play. So I'm interested to see what Wanya can do if he does get some play. I think he'll get decent play. But as far as generic Prince, I want to see what this kid can do in some live action. I'm really excited. I never really watched much of his. I'm being honest, I haven't watched much of his film or anything like that.
Our guy Marcus Dash was telling me long ago about this.
Yeah,
kid.
he was early on it.
Yeah.
And I know a couple other people were as well. And there was a hype train behind him heading into early before camp was really even getting going. In the rookie camp and stuff, and getting all the rookies acclimated. And he was kind of one of the guys that popped out and stood out from day one.
Yep.
So you love hearing that, especially the running back position, a guy that's versatile that can catch the ball. And Andy Reid offense, that's a position that's always going to thrive.
Right.
And having guys like McKinnon around him and Clyde as well, guys that are versatile threats that can do those things as well. It can help his development and can help him escalate quickly. And I heard he's a dynamic runner too. He's when he gets a straight line, I heard he can go, and I love that. You can never have too many dynamic runners on this kind of offense. So I'm excited to see this weekend with him, see what he can kind of do, if he can have any kind of big pop-off plays. That'll kind of soften the issue right now we're dealing with the Chris Jones stuff. We see him have some explosive plays out there. Chiefs fan, get a Chiefs fan something positive to talk about right now. But as far as that, man, the tight ends, I'm interested to see what that. There has been a lot of rumblings about Jody possibly not making the roster. I don't like hearing that because I love Jody. I love what he's had some really good moments in this offense. He's also got the trust of Pat, like I like to say, because that's a big deal to me. We've seen the numerous weeks early on this past season where just throw it up there. Jody will get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's had those multiple touchdown games where he's just so big and so dominant and has that wide receiver background to him where he's just a big wide receiver basically, and that's similar to what Travis Kelce is. So having guys like that, but I do want to see with Bushman, I think is his name. What he's capable of. I mean, we brought him in here for a reason. He caught the eyes of our scouts, and I always want the best guy on the field, no matter what the name is. If someone's better in this certain position, someone's better in this with their skill set, I want them out there. You know what I mean? So I love Jody, but if he's not up to par and he's not doing the things that this kid is doing, put Bushman out there, man. I want the best. I want anybody who gives us the best chance to win games, I want on the field. So I'm excited to see what this kid can do. Him and Deneric Prince offensively are probably the two guys I'm going to be watching the most. I think we know who our wide receivers are at this moment outside of Justin Watson. I think he's the odd one out. I think we both can agree on that as far as if it's going to come down to Justin Ross and Justin Watson. I think we know.
I would think, but again,
I think, dude, the hype has been way too heavy behind Justin Ross.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Chiefs do themselves no favors because they've been hyping him so much on their social media presence that if they were to try to put him on the practice squad, someone's picking him up.
Yeah, sure.
Because of just the hype around him.
But again,
now.
It comes back to trade-offs. I think that's something we can afford to lose. If the wide receiver room we had last year, there was guys that we could afford to, I don't know, man. I think if it comes down to it, I think the stature of Justin Ross, the skill set that he provides, it's just a matter of does he has the trust and the chemistry with Patrick Mahomes yet? Because we do know that Justin Watson does have that.
Yeah,
we've seen it in big moments. Him having that speed to get to those deep balls from Patrick Mahomes and then connecting numerous times downfield. That's something you need, especially since Tyreek's been gone. That's something we haven't had that real connection with. Even with MVS, as great as a field stretcher he is, the connection hasn't been there really downfield with Pat yet, outside of a couple plays.
A scenario that I could see happening is, we still have 3 weeks of preseason football to go.
Yeah.
Well, the scenario, let's say the Chiefs were like having these embedded conversations of, hey, listen, Justin Ross is going to be the guy we're going to go with, but we need to highlight or showcase rather Justin Watson in some of these games as opposed to focusing on Justin Ross. So that way, if and when there's a team that has an injury to a wide receiver in camp or in a preseason game, we can get a conditional 6th-round pick out of a Justin Watson in a trade. Think about that. Like you could maybe get a draft pick out of a Justin Watson as opposed to just letting him go.
It's a 5th rounder.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think like a conditional 6 for a Justin Watson.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Get a conditional 6th-round pick for a Justin Watson to a team that just had an injury to their wide receiver 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I think that'd be and again he has guaranteed money that's like $1.5 million. So the team that would be bringing him in isn't going to be paying him an exorbitant amount of money. He's 27 years old, just a good team guy. Tom Brady loved him. Patrick Mahomes loves him.
He's seized every moment he's had, though.
That's a good reputation to have. So
absolutely.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on the depth chart right now. Like I said, it's unofficial, so there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and I expect these parts to be moving around like crazy before the season starts. But give us your guys' thoughts on that. Give us your takes on that, and what you guys think about the depth chart. We'd love to hear from you in that. One more order of business to get to, guys, when it comes to our takes on these things, and we're going to get to you guys, is the Chiefs-Saints are set to play this Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern. And
Big game.
Obviously, yeah, humongous game, guys. Huge. No, when it comes to preseason games, like I hate preseason football. To be completely, frank with you guys on this, I'm not a fan of it. It's to me, I wish there was no preseason at all. I wish they would just do an extended amount of training camp and just get the guys ready and in shape, and then play real football. But that's just me. I wish Patrick Mahomes never played a snap in preseason football. I know people hate when I say that, because everyone loves to tell me and remind me that Andy Reid knows this better than I do. No shit. And that Patrick Mahomes loves to play. No shit. Patrick Mahomes is the ultimate competitor. Of course he wants to play. Dude would go out here and play an 11-on-11 with people in my neighborhood if he could. Like, the dude's obsessed with playing football. He's a competitor. Of course he wants to play. But me personally, I would rather not see Patrick Mahomes ever play a snap of preseason football because of the risk. People tell me, well, he could get hurt in regular season. Yeah, because that actually is relevant, though.
Does it matter?
If he gets hurt in a relevant game, I can live with that. I can't live with the fact that him getting. That's why I said I never want to see him play basketball again. Remember, like 4 years ago when that video came out of him playing basketball at Lifetime Fitness, and we're like, "No, stop that! I don't want to see any injury to you on a fucking basketball court."
Yeah, appetizers are not necessary before you eat dinner.
Thank you. That's exactly. Well, unless you're me, but that's
not
my
necessary.
That's my
America.
problem.
America.
But when it comes to the Chiefs and Saints, look, I'm just looking at certain, who and what I'm looking for in this matchup. I obviously addressed the Keandre Coburn situation. I want to see what he can do when given opportunities in this game, which I do anticipate he'll get plenty, especially as the game progresses. But I also, when it comes to the first team on offense, it's something that we haven't talked about a lot because, again, we can't really do anything. The Chiefs really can't do anything about it now. They've kind of just made their decision, and now it's what it is. Yep. I want to see what Donovan Smith does. We know that the Saints have an awesome pass rush, especially at Cam Jordan. I don't know how much these guys are going to play, if Cam Jordan even plays at all. Yeah. But I do want to see how Donovan Smith looks. We saw last night with Commanders game how horrible Andrew Wiley looked, the former right tackle for the Chiefs. He gave up a safety by holding in the end zone. He looked terrible. And he just got himself a nice contract. I'm happy for him, but he looked awful.
Right.
So I want to see what Donovan Smith has. Everyone keeps telling me, hey, look, man, the Bucs fans on one side are telling me this guy's washed. Good luck to you, Chiefs fans. On the other side, people are telling me, no, he had an injury, he had an arm injury. Like, he's going to be fine now. Okay. I want to see what he's got now. That's what I'm looking for more than anything when it comes to the first team. Something else is where and how Spags is going to utilize Leo Chenal. As I've already talked about, he's now, according to the unofficial depth chart, a starting linebacker. This is a guy that I think has been really cutting his teeth and proving himself over the last 9-10 months. I think he's really earned the trust of Steve Spagnuolo. I think they're going to start, in my opinion, utilizing him as a pass rusher. Because of the fact, think about it, Trevor, they've shown no signs of...
He's got the size and speed for it.
Well, they've shown no sign of signing any veteran pass rushers right now. Carlos Dunlap, they let Justin Watson go to the freaking Panthers.
Yeah.
Pissed about that all week. But Leo Chenal in Wisconsin did that. He was rushing the passer a lot. He was T.J. Watt after T.J. Watt. A lot of people said, this isn't me.
No.
I'm literally
he's got it.
Yes, he has that about his game.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe Spags starts to utilize him a little bit on the edge, whereas Trank will, on a flip, is kind of running all over the field.
Maybe experiment Willie Gay, too.
Yeah. And Willie Gay's actually gotten better with pass protection, too. So maybe they're going to try
that was his biggest skill set coming into the league.
Right. So maybe they continue to use Willie Gay that way and have Leo Chenal start to run on the edge. So... I'm really interested to see how they utilize him, and I'm going to hopefully see some of it tonight. I'd love to see what they do with him in some of these packages and these formations. And a question I have, and it goes a little bit to the L'Jarius Sneed situation, how do they work Chamari Connor tonight or tomorrow? And do they work Chamari Connor at L'Jarius Sneed's position? Because this is the theory that I put out there, and a lot of other people have really started to wonder, is if Chamari Connor is going to be that replacement for L'Jarius Sneed moving forward. And I think there's a legitimate chance that is the case. They have a similar skill set, and they both have the same type of college career. Only Chamari played for a much more prestigious school and played at a higher level, quite frankly. So I'm wondering if Chamari Connor is going to be that guy. And if we start seeing him line up at slot, play a little bit of nickel and dime safety and things like that, maybe we start to wonder if that's going to be the case. And if L'Jarius Sneed doesn't, start the season off doesn't play, maybe Chamari Connor has to step in that role. I've told you, I expect him to be a 2024 player. I don't think he's going to have a lot of big-time plays in 2023. I think he's going to develop into that guy next year. But if he has to step in early and often, because what I'm seeing from camp, Trevor, and how good of a practice he had yesterday, I mean, I've already been a big Chamari guy. Maybe he becomes that guy quicker than I anticipated because of just absolute need. Maybe the Chiefs have to use, like, listen, man, you got to grow up now. You're going to have to be the guy now. L'Jarius Sneed's going to miss the first X amount of games. We need you. And he ends up becoming that guy. Who's to say? Those are the pieces I'm looking at for sure. The final one real quick, and I'm going to get to you, Trevor, is the splits between Clyde and Deneric Prince.
Yep.
I think that this is the battle here right now for the third spot on for the running back position. Clyde and Deneric. I think Deneric at this point has the upper hand because he's younger. It's not that Clyde's old. Clyde's 25 years old. It's not that he's old, but I think that the Chiefs know what Clyde is, and something I heard Clyde say in one of his press conferences of late was that, you know, going into training camp of the last few years, the Chiefs have told him, hey, work on this, work on this, work on this. This year, coming into training camp, they told him, hey, just keep yourself in shape. So I think Clyde's like, well, I'm just going to kind of just be a guy. You know, I'm not going to be a premier running back for this team anymore. That's Isaiah Pacheco, and Jerick McKinnon is the pass option.
Right.
So, you know, Deneric Prince and Clyde are going to be those guys that kind of fight for that third role in the running back room to see who's, you know, on the as far as who's higher up on the depth chart. So that's going to be really interesting to see too, because I think both these guys are going to get a lot of play. Because also, even though I do expect Clyde to make this roster, and I obviously expect Deneric Prince to make the roster, I think there's a chance that if the Chiefs showcase Clyde a little bit, there could be chances for trades there too. Now, guys like Kareem Hunt and guys like that are still sitting out there.
Ezekiel
Elliott still has.
They can't even get jobs.
Maybe teams don't want to trade for a Clyde when they can go and sign a guy like that.
Right.
But because of the fact that both those guys are older than Clyde, maybe some teams are like, look, we can trade for Clyde. He's got 1 year left on. He got the player option. Maybe we can try to go and get him on that. There's a lot of questions they have with Clyde. I think that, though, you're going to see a battle between those two running backs coming up in these preseason games. What are you looking for, Trevor, in the preseason, or in particular against the Saints?
Definitely Leo Chenal. See where they have him, where they're moving him around at, where they're utilizing him, whether it's off the edge. I would love to see him playing on the edge, see if he can even get there.
Yeah.
If he has that speed to get there, definitely keep an eye on that. And like I said, Deneric Prince, I would love to see if he has some big eye popping plays. See if he can break a couple big home run runs. That'd be cool to see. Get some more traction on that train that's already kind of hyped behind him. See how the running backs are used in what order. And then Wanya Morris, I want to see how he plays out there. He's probably not going to play with Pat or the ones at all, and no matter how much the ones play, which probably will be like a series probably.
Right.
Whoever he's protecting, I want to see how his feet move. I want to see his ability to stay in front of people and protect. I want to see what he looks like. Because if he's going to possibly be the backup, the direct backup, that's a big deal. I want to see how capable he is, whether it is preseason or not. I want to see what his footwork looks like and what his progressions are. I'm really interested to see how the wide receivers, the rotation of those guys. I want to see if Sky Moore can get some reps in there and see how he looks. Haven't heard too much about him, but I think I'm more hyped on him other than Kadarius Toney. I'm actually more hyped on him than anybody else in the wide receiver.
On Sky Moore?
I love Sky Moore this year. I think he catches a lot of balls this year. So I'm interested to see what the rotation of the receivers look like. And how they're being utilized. If Justin Ross can get out there and get some reps in, see how he looks. If he catches a single ball, everyone's gonna shit their pants and go crazy over it. Which it's fun. It's fun. I hope this kid's future is solid and continues to grow with this hype train. I hope he becomes something for this team because that only benefits us, right? So hope he gets a couple catches out there. Looks good, healthy. And then I think that's basically the main ones. And then see what King Phillips can get in there and go do, because there's been, hopefully he can kind of hush some of these haters that are out here right now saying that he's not ready and he looks slow. He's running into to linemen and blah blah blah. I hope he can go out there, maybe get a sack, maybe go out there and make a nice play. Granted, it is preseason, so none of it really matters, but kind of getting some of those critics off of him a little bit would be cool to see, and just for him and his personal confidence, to kind of hush some of the critics out there. So that's basically it. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how Leo Chenal gets used for sure.
Nice. All right, well, that's where we're at right now when it comes to the Chiefs Saints preview. Like I said, when the real season gets here, guys, trust me when I say Trevor and I are going to have much more detail, much more thoughts, opinions, takes of that nature when it comes to real games. But we're going to power through this preseason right now. But you know what we need to get to, Trevor? We've been making it's been over an hour now.
Yeah.
We've been making the people wait. Let's get to speak it. Let's get to some of these people's comments. Yes, I can't wait. I'm excited. Let's get to these people's questions, takes, concerns, whatever they got. Hit us up, people. What do we got, Trev?
All right, so first off the bat, we got Believe in 76ers on YouTube. I think it's Believe. Could you see a world where Deneric Prince becomes a lead back over Pacheco this season?
Yes, I do. Biggest reason why is because what I've been saying all along is that, first of all, I feel like Deneric Prince has that Pacheco-esque thing about him where he's a guy that can steal a grown man's job. And that just seems to be a thing now in Kansas City where these young bucks just come in and just establish themselves as what they are. And that's what Pacheco did last year. I could see Deneric being that guy. The biggest reason why, though, is because of the fact that Pacheco is already having injury concerns. Yeah. He had a torn labrum, had a hand injury, things of that nature.
Granted, he played through that and scored in the Super Bowl.
And he'll continue to play through that because he's just that strong and that tough and that amazing. But as violent of a player as Pacheco is and as violent as he runs, his fuse is going to be short. I hate to say that. I don't want to sound negative, but guys like him don't have long careers. But Pacheco is going to be fun while it lasts. He's going to be an effective player, and people are going to love him, and that's just how it's going to be. So much so that he wears the number 10 jersey, and people don't even think about Tyreek Hill when they see the 10 jersey. They think Pacheco. That's how special he's become. And he helped the Chiefs win a Super Bowl in his rookie year. So, although I do expect, without question, Pacheco is running back one. As the season goes on, if Pacheco's showing any signs of injury or any signs of slowing down, anything like that, I think Deneric Prince will step in and do something. Let's be real, man. Like, everybody loves Jerick McKinnon now, and everybody swears by him, right? 2 years ago, where the hell was Jerick McKinnon?
Right, sitting at home.
He was a journeyman running back all over the damn league, man. Just kind of just filling in wherever he could.
Injury prone his whole career almost.
And now he's become a fan favorite in Kansas City and had more
for good reason.
And had more receiving touchdowns last season than Justin Jefferson.
And Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I'm saying, but Justin Jefferson was the offensive player of the year, and he had more touchdown receptions
in
than he did.
7 weeks stretch.
Yeah. So running backs in Kansas City are utilized much differently.
Yeah.
And I think Deneric Prince has that skill set that fits seamlessly, even more seamlessly, quite frankly, than Isaiah Pacheco. Because Isaiah Pacheco is more of a Derrick Henry style running back, where he's a downhill, violent, big, physical running back. That's not really what the Chiefs like out of the running back position. They like more of a dual threat kind of run. Now, if Pacheco, and I tweeted this out this week too, if Pacheco was to add more of a catch,
he started to at the last.
If he starts catching if he starts catching passes out of the backfield, he has top 10 running back potential.
Absolutely.
So
this offense,
and that might save his career a little bit if he starts to utilize more of a slot receiver style to his game here and there. That might extend his career by a couple of years.
Yeah.
But if he keeps playing like this, it's going to be fun, but it's going to be 3 to 5 years tops. But yes, Deneric Prince, I do expect to be a guy that if he was asked to become the guy, he could become the guy.
Oh, yeah,
him.
Yeah, Chiefs are obviously not too big to crown a rookie running back the starting running back on this team, because we just did that exact thing last year. So if anything were to happen to Pacheco, hopefully it does not, because I love the guy and he's proven himself already to be the guy. 100%, there could be an opportunity for Prince to take over, especially if he has like that full package. Because we all know we love McKinnon, but we all kind of know what he is. He's kind of that guy that comes in and has he's a veteran, has a lot of. I think he's more of a guy that we kind of keep in the reserve till later in the season. Obviously, we showed that last year because he could have played a lot more last year than he did, but he didn't because he wasn't hurt. You know what I mean? So we didn't really unleash him till like weeks 8, 9, until he really started getting going. So so 100% there's a scenario where Deneric Prince can definitely take over, and then if he's the best guy for the job, I hope he does. Period. Next question is this is kind of a follow-up on what we just touched on a minute ago from Bump Up BB on YouTube. What are you most looking for in the preseason games? We kind of just discussed that, but I just kind of want to give him, since he asked the question.
Yeah.
What it is.
Well, I will say this real quick about what to also look for, just in addition, is the energy from this team. Most teams, when they win the Super Bowl and have had as much success the Chiefs have had in a 5-year stretch, you start to see the teams kind of slow down, not play as motivated. The beautiful thing about this team and why they're going to continue to play energetic is because this team's so young and still in certain areas inexperienced, that you're going to see that rejuvenation, the motivation of, look, some of us haven't proven anything because some of us weren't on that team last year.
Yeah.
And now we need to, cut our teeth here and prove that we can help them continue to win Super Bowls. So I think that energy is going to maintain. I know a lot of people think going into week 1 against the Lions, it's going to be the Lions that are going to come in here with all this energy. Who's to say the Chiefs don't come in with that same energy? Because of the fact that, like, again, there's a constant rotation at some of these positions. You got some young, unproven guys coming in here trying to, make their name, make their mark.
The fact that people are saying about the Lions, just to get to add to that point, the fact that people are publicly coming out saying that the Lions are going to come in more hungry is only going to stoke the fire more for the Chiefs to go out there and put it on them.
Exactly.
Like, what do you guys act? You guys act like Patrick Mahomes doesn't get up for every game?
Yeah, because
Stop.
You guys,
you haven't learned yet?
People forget when the Chiefs won the first Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, what did we do the week 1?
Well, what happened? Yeah, they whooped the Texans, but here's the thing. We had, 11,000 fans, I think, total in the stands, and they did a banner, like the banner thing, but it was like there was nothing to, like, you didn't have a packed house. This time, you're going to have 79, 80,000 Chiefs fans, banners dropping, people going crazy, panties dropping, like all kinds of shit's going to be dropping. And I think that's it's gonna be insane, man. And I can't wait to get there. But yeah, I this is what I'm saying. When it comes to the energy of the team, watch for that too. That's something else I'm gonna be watching, is just how this team plays energetically. Are they gonna look motivated? Are they gonna look like they're ready to take off? Because something we've heard at a training camp, and something I noticed too being at training camp, was this team wasn't playing in training camp like it was training camp. They were playing like it's week 7. Like we're getting ready for a big matchup. Like, you see the focus, you see the energy, you see the team confident, loose, ready to go. It didn't feel like a normal training camp.
Yeah.
It feels like this team's like really like getting geared up and ready to go for what is, because we know that Travis Kelce said it too. I get bored sometimes during the regular season. I'm ready for the postseason. How do you think he feels in training camp? Yeah. You know what I mean? These guys are ready to go, man.
Yeah, long story short, I think the most things we're looking for is Deneric Prince getting a chance to make a big play, Justin Ross getting a chance to make a big play offensively, and then all of the rookies on defense.
Yeah.
Who's going to pop off the screen? Because this defensive line, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of young guys, especially the Chris Jones vacancy right now. Who's going to step up and make some big plays on the defensive line in the absence of Chris Jones, and to kind of make a statement, for themselves. So whether it's Leo Chenal or whoever it is, go out there and kind of make a big statement play for for this season. Even though Leo Chenal is already a starter, but some of these guys, King Felix, maybe go out and make a big play. Just see these rookies go out there and do something and give us something to kind of talk about for the next following week. Next question comes from on YouTube. The one named Julia. Is it possible the amount dispute is due to the fact the Rams overpaid for Aaron Donald, i.e. Watson and Cleveland? So basically questioning, in comparison to the Chris Jones, why this is a holdup, because the Chiefs maybe believe that the Rams overpaid for Aaron Donald and they don't want to be in that same situation.
Well, first of all, I'll stop it right there with the overpaying of Aaron Donald. I don't believe that the Rams overpaid for Aaron Donald. Sure. I think they paid him what he's worth. Aaron Donald is arguably the greatest interior defensive lineman who has ever played football. You can't really put a price tag on that guy. And with the money moving, like everybody thinks that Chris Jones wants quarterback money. No. If you look at quarterback money, it's now in the 40s. 40-something. Daniel freaking Jones is getting $40 million a year.
The market is what the market is.
Exactly. Like, no, they're not. These guys aren't asking for quarterback money. They're asking for interior defensive line at elite level money. That's what they're looking at. And so, no, I don't think the dispute is due to that fact, because, again, I don't believe that the Rams overpaid Donald, because, again, when that contract went down, I didn't hear a single person say that they overpaid Aaron Donald. Because they didn't. And so we can't play revisionist history here. When it came to Deshaun Watson, the only thing that pissed people off about that one was because of the fact this dude had a horrendous, unprecedented situation go down the offseason before, and then gets all this fully guaranteed money. If Patrick Mahomes was to get that deal that Deshaun Watson got, or if Joe Burrow or any of these other guys would have gotten it, no one's sitting here going, what the hell? Like, it would have been shocking because of all that guaranteed money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it would have made sense because those guys were worth it. Deshaun Watson, we didn't know if that dude was going to play football again at one point. So it was very questionable, and it was very weird and controversial surrounding that situation. It pissed off all the other owners, though, because of how much guaranteed money was in there. But that goes the way of the league, man. You're going to start seeing these guys get more and more guaranteed money as time goes on, because quarterbacks are that much more paramount and important for NFL teams as the seasons go on.
Well, it was a desperation move for Cleveland. I mean, they needed a quarterback change. They're coming off the Baker, sweepstakes and all these things, and that didn't work out. So they wanted to make sure they go get a potential star player in Deshaun Watson, who I believe has star power still and can change that. But yes, that Deshaun was definitely overpaid, if we're all being honest. But yes. Next question comes also from the one named Julia. Other than Jones, would you say Bolton is just as important?
No. Listen, I love Nick Bolton. I know that people think I'm nuts for saying this because I praise Nick Bolton. I was one of the few people when he got drafted at number 58 overall. I said, this is a great pick for the Chiefs, even though he was slow and not good at pass protection. What did we see the Chiefs deal with for the previous years before that, before Nick Bolton got drafted? It was Anthony Hitchens and Damian Wilson, and those guys could not play. They could not protect the pass, nothing. It was a gaping hole in the middle of the field. But I said the difference between those guys and Nick Bolton, though, is that Nick Bolton is a tackling machine, so you're not going to see missed tackles out of this kid, and I loved him out of Mizzou, and I was one of the few that defended him. So trust me when I say I'm a big Nick Bolton guy. He has the fourth most tackles, combined tackles, in the history of the NFL in the first 2 seasons of an NFL career. So what Nick Bolton is doing is awesome. But his position alone, guys, is significantly less valuable than Chris Jones and Chris Jones's position. What do we always talk about, Trevor? The 3 most important positions in the NFL, on an NFL franchise is the quarterback, the left tackle, and the guys getting after the quarterback, which most teams it's like the defensive end or the outside linebacker, but for the Chiefs it's unique because it's our defensive tackle that gets the majority of the quarterback pressures and sacks.
Yep.
So when it comes to Chris Jones here in Kansas City, he's basically the outside linebacker of that defensive end. He's the 3rd most important position. Sometimes you can argue it's the 2nd. Regardless, though, middle linebacker is 10th, 11th most important position on a team, sometimes further down. It is what they would consider the running back of the defense. And that's not a knock on Nick, because I love Nick. And if the Chiefs keep him, awesome, because you know what you got in this kid. He's a stud.
Homegrown.
And I love what he is. Yeah, he's homegrown. He played at Mizzou, all this other stuff. I love Nick Bolton. But he's nowhere near as valuable as Chris Jones. It's not even close, guys. He doesn't play the position of value like Chris Jones does, and Chris Jones is just a significantly better overall football player. But, again, if they keep Nick Bolton, if they sign him in the next year or 2, awesome. I hope they do. That'd be great. Do I anticipate it? No. But I do think that he's going to play a valuable position on this team, but it's not. It's apples and oranges between him and Chris Jones.
100%. All right, we got next question is from our very own guy, our guy Shaggy Shane.
Nice.
What's up, guys? I'm at work today and just sitting down for lunch. Have you guys talked yet about the depth at both offensive tackle positions? Just curious on what you both want to see from them.
Yeah, so we briefly touched on it a minute ago.
Yep.
But yes, this is the position that I am probably the most concerned at for the entire team outside of interior defensive line, as we should be. But great question, Shaggy. I think that the reason why we don't talk a lot about it is because, again, there's not much the Chiefs can really do because they utilize this offseason of basically saying, look, we're changing both tackles for the 3rd time in a 4-year stretch. You know, this is going to be another risk we're willing to take. Now the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with Andrew Wiley, who, again, gave up a safety in the Commanders game last night by holding somebody in the end zone. I was glad they moved off of Andrew Wiley, and they obviously upgraded by getting Jawan Taylor, but the confusion was the Chiefs paid Jawan Taylor like a left tackle, giving him all that guaranteed money that kicks in 2024. So right tackle is taken care of because Jawan Taylor's awesome at right tackle. He's an incredible pass protector, things of that nature. But then you look at Donovan Smith on the left tackle position, who I believe is a downgrade to Orlando Brown Jr., even though some will disagree. I think Orlando Brown's the better player. I think he's more resilient. He's also 3.5 years younger. Donovan Smith had a terrible season last year with the Buccaneers, who were a team that were going downhill anyway, but he did deal with injuries, things of that nature. So hopefully Donovan can turn the clock back and become what he was 2-3 years ago. But I am very concerned about that because not only if he fails are the Chiefs screwed at left tackle, but there's nobody behind him that's even close to proven or somebody that I trust. I think right now at the depth chart, if I'm not mistaken, right behind Donovan Smith at left tackle is Prince Dago Winogo. Never really seen the guy play a lot of meaningful snaps in the NFL. I have no confidence that he'd be a starting left tackle in this league. Trevor mentioned Wanye Morris. I think Wanye Morris was originally a right tackle. I know he played swing a little bit, but I think he would be a guy that would replace Jawan Taylor if there was to be something to happen happen. Basically, my scenario is if Donovan Smith was to absolutely fail or get injured, I think they would move Juwan Taylor to left tackle and then have like a Wanye Morris or somebody like that play right tackle. I think that's how we would see things go. But the depth of the tackle position is very much something I worry about, which is why I've already been putting it out there months and months ahead of time that next year's draft, I think the Chiefs are 100% going to be looking at tackle early and often and try to rebuild the tackle position or at least on the left side, because I think Juwan Taylor is going to be here for the next 2 to 3 years at least. But I do think left tackle is going to be somewhere where the Chiefs have to answer quickly, because I don't think Donovan Smith is a long-term answer and may not even be a short-term answer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of faith and trust going into Donovan Smith, which is why I want to see what Wanye Morris, whether he's second or third on the depth chart behind him. That's the main one I'm watching. We saw, like you said, Andrew Riley just getting exposed. It was a guy who was starting at right tackle for a long time, so I think Juwan is a massive upgrade to him, and he's paid accordingly for that. But I think Juwan will be a legitimately really good right tackle this year. The guy, he's an absolute dog. I loved him in Jacksonville. I loved what I saw at him coming into the league. So I'm excited to see that. As far as the depth behind him, I'm not too sure. I think Wanya is probably going to be a kind of a swing tackle guy, possibly. But I do think there's some juice behind him being, playing left tackle, if anything does, whether he wins the position outright, which I don't think is going to happen right away. But if Donovan Smith starts slacking a little bit or starts getting dinged up, I think we could see some Wanya in there. And that's why that's probably my main thing I'm looking forward to in these preseason games is what he's capable of. I want to see how his feet work. Does he have good fluid feet? His hand work and how he does just protecting the blind side and things like that.
Yeah.
That's the main thing I'm looking for. I want to see a lot out of Wanya, and I think we drafted him for a reason at that position. He's a versatile guy, has history with Trey Smith, which I love again, and comes from a good program, right? So and he's a big boy. I want to see how he can move, though, because the game is a lot faster when you get into the big boy league. So I want to see how his footwork is, and that's probably my main thing going to that. But as far as the right tackle position, I think it's solidified as far as right now with Juwan. But who's behind him, I really do not know who the backup right tackle really is at the moment. I'm not even sure what the roster or what the depth chart said who was the backup to Juwan, but
I think it is Wanye Morris.
Is it?
I think Wanye, because Wanye Morris played, I think, almost exclusively right tackle. That's why when the Chiefs drafted him in the third round, I was like, oh, okay, maybe they're going to try to develop him and have like a battle for right tackle and Juwan Taylor plays left tackle, because the Chiefs hadn't signed Donovan Smith yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why I was theorizing, and that's why I remember the whole confusion set in about, wait, Juwan Taylor was supposed to be the left tackle. Why is he playing right tackle? What the hell's that?
Yeah.
So.
It looks like we got a bunch of guys who can play every position on the offensive line, I guess. I don't know. That's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. But thank you, Shaggy, for that question, man. That's definitely something that's probably the main thing I'm looking forward to is how we're going to protect Pat this season. Who's the best for that job?
Kind of a big deal.
So watching preseason, that's going to be my main focus, honestly, watching these guys in the offensive line. Next question is from the one named Julia, once again on YouTube. If FAU gets off to a slow start, could he incur the scrutiny CEH did?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think
anybody could. Yeah,
I think the biggest reason why CEH got so much vitriol is because he's a running back,
and
the Chiefs. The Chiefs drafted him in the first round. You're like, why did the Chiefs? Okay, because look at it like this: if the Chiefs would have gotten a running back with ultra production in the first round, like, man, that actually. It's not really something. It's something that's pretty ill-advised to do, but it worked out for the Chiefs. So it's so much more so, and I think it's also what he was struggling with, because we remember in that 2020 season he looked really good, but he was dealing with injuries, and then in 2021 he had all that fumbling problems, and then injuries again, and then in 2022 injuries again. It's starting to look bad. So I don't think it was necessarily a slow start for Clyde as to why he was.
And there was some frustration with how he was not being utilized, how he was in college, with the passing game. He was barely getting used that
the
way.
Offense and the way that we assumed he would. FAU, the only way I think he's going to get the same type of energy towards him negatively is if he starts battling with injuries. If we start seeing him, missing half the season, if we see him not even getting close to the quarterback, he's just getting ate up by tackles left and right, literally. I think that's when you're going to see that start to become a thing. But I'm not expecting that to be the case.
Yeah.
But if he does battle with those two things, then yes, 100%, because of the fact he has that first round grade on him, whether that's fair or unfair, there are expectations for first round picks that are on none of the other round picks. Like, it's just not how it goes. When you're a first-round pick, that's why Eric Fisher was so criticized, because he was a first-round left tackle, first pick overall.
It could have been Jokel.
And he was like, well, but Fisher was roughly like the 12th, 13th best on a normal basis left tackle. People thought he didn't, become what he was supposed to become.
Draft. Yeah. Just to add to that, I think the standard has changed here in Kansas City. I think the fans are going to be more, not only fans but coaches. I think scrutiny is the word. I think scrutiny is going to be a little quicker. I think people are going to be a little more quicker to scrutinize these higher end players that we drafted in the higher rounds quicker, because we have a standard now. This is a championship caliber roster. This is a dynastic run that we're on, and we want to keep alive for a decade, or so. So yes, standards has changed. We are not the Texans. We are not, these bottom feeding teams or rebuilding teams. We are a team that are continually trying to contend for championships every single season, and we have the best quarterback in football and the best head coach in football. So the standards has changed. And if you're not up to par, no matter what position it is, you will be scrutinized and you will be replaced. So for that, I think FAU has the skill set that we are expecting to see out of him, and I hope he starts off hot. But if he doesn't start off hot, scrutiny will be there, but have some kind of patience, because he is a rookie, and not every single rookie, especially at that position, pops off, right? So, scrutiny will be there if he has an extremely slow start. Yes. Next question comes from our guy Ruben DeCruz on YouTube. Are we going to be a ball hawk team this year?
I'm assuming that means the cornerbacks and safeties. Yeah, I actually, yes, because remember 2 years ago when the Trent McDuffie draft happened, and you saw the way the Chiefs were continuously building with defensive backs. I was of the belief that the Chiefs were trying to build a defense similar to what the Seahawks were about 10 years ago with the Legion of Boom, and I obviously that's high praise because there was like 2 or 3 Hall of Fame players on that defense. But I still thought stylistically and mentality-wise, that's what the Chiefs were trying to do. Now, I still do believe the Chiefs are trying to build their front seven, and they have been building their front seven. So it's not like it's all going to be in the secondary. But yes, I do think, because the fact, like I said, one of my 2 breakout players is Brian Cook. Mike Edwards is a good veteran to have back there. Justin Reed is still Justin Reed. And you see, like I said, Trent McDuffie, who would not shock me at all if within the next 2 years is an all-pro player. Yeah. L'Jarius Sneed is still awesome, can still pick the ball off. There's a lot of guys on this defense that can make plays. And as we saw down the stretch of that postseason run, our guy Jalen Watson and our guy Joshua Williams like to go and get that ball as well. So yes, Ruben, I am anticipating this defense. It would not shock me at all if they were one of the 5 best teams at picking the ball off and turning the ball over this year. Even though the Chiefs were not good at that at all last season, they were one of the worst. I think with the development of some of these other guys and the opportunities they're going to get, I think you're going to see this defense become one of those types of defenses. So yeah, I do anticipate that.
Yeah, especially building off the way the season ended. We started doing it more and more, and we did it in big moments.
Yeah.
When we needed those guys the most to make plays downfield, those guys came up big and made big plays and picked off great quarterbacks such as Joe Burrow in big games. So that's something you can build on. That's a confidence booster, if anything is. So yes, I love the secondary. Not only do I think they're going to be a ball hawk type of team, this is going to be a team that's going to lay the wood. This is going to, like you said, Cook, a guy that can just absolutely just go in someone, bro. So having guys out there that can really, not making business decisions, no shade on Tyrann Mathieu, but a guy that I loved throughout his whole career was for making big hits for his size and being that guy that's always in the right place at the right time, was taking plays off a lot of times. And these younger guys are extremely hungry. You know what I mean? So I think this is something they want to build on and take a grown man's job and whoever is in front of them, right? I 100%. I think this secondary is going to be really fun this year. Absolutely. Next question comes from our guy Brian Parrott. Have Kadarius Toney's doctors set anything on a timetable to return to practice?
Not that I have seen. We've had speculation. Dr. Cho, whatever his name is on X, has speculated that it could be it could be an injury that prolongs throughout the season, but he can end up playing earlier. But according to Adam Schefter's report a few days ago, it looks like Isaiah Pacheco, and Kadarius Toney are in line to play Week 1. So I'm not expecting Kadarius Toney to miss any real time based upon what we know. I haven't heard doctors approve it yet, but if Adam Schefter is reporting that must mean that agents who are in connection with the doctors are telling him what's going on, and I would expect that he's not going to miss any real time. Hopefully that continues throughout the season where he doesn't have another setback or anything like that, but we know that Kadarius Toney's the type of guy that he does have setbacks. He does have injury concerns, which is why I'm not anticipating he's going to play probably more than 9-10 games this season. I hope I'm wrong, but week 1 is not a game that I'm anticipating he's going to miss because it does look like he will be ready by that time.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that sucks is he's missing out on getting reps in the practice reps. So when he does, if he is ready for week 1, how fresh is he going to be? How much are they going to use him? Are they going to ease him in, which is probably what they're going to do. And the biggest question mark on him is, how will he survive the whole season, the grueling, especially with him having even more of a workload, most likely, which is, I think, the expectation. I think he's going to be, a massive part of this offense when healthy, compared to last year. Not having Juju, not having McColl, he's going to have a massive role in this offense. And if he's not ready, that's all the more chances for development, and the guys like I'm very hyped on is like guys like Sky Moore and Justin Ross, even MVS maybe coming around and being a little more of a vital part of this offense than he was last year, more than just stretching the field. So hopefully, I just hope KT's ready to go. The season starts, and I hope he's balling out like I expect him to. Next question comes from our guy Bumpa BB on YouTube. If we don't pay Chris Jones, is there a better chance we keep Snead? No way we lose both, right?
I don't think that either one has anything to do with the other. I don't think that if Chris Jones got his deal, so L'Jarius isn't getting his now. I think that, like I said, the Chiefs look at positions in totally different lights, regardless of what they have at those positions. I think if L'Jarius Sneed never was on this team, they still would pay Chris Jones or wouldn't pay Chris Jones based upon what they have at principal at the interior defensive line position. So no, I don't think it matters. I think if Chris Jones doesn't get his money, that doesn't mean that they're going to start throwing money to L'Jarius Sneed, because again, they have a way of how they build their teams regardless of where their money is going. So Chris Jones gets his money, L'Jarius Sneed's on or off this team because of what the Chiefs decided to do at that position. I don't think it has anything to do with Chris Jones. I really don't. I think that L'Jarius Sneed is a valued commodity, but as I broke down earlier on the show, in Kansas City, the cornerback position isn't as of much value as a defensive lineman or a guy like Chris Jones, period. Yeah. Because the Chiefs aren't a team that's cornerback reliant. They're quarterback reliant. And when you have a great quarterback, you have to be cheap somewhere. You have to get creative somewhere, and the Chiefs have chose defensive back. That's why they've drafted 7 defensive backs over these last 2 drafts. That's not a coincidence to me, just like it's not a coincidence to me that they've literally avoided drafting at Chris Jones's position. They haven't even tried to replace him. So, yeah, if you're trying to compare them, trust me, there really isn't one. I don't think either one has anything to do with the other. I think that they're being evaluated the way that they are simply because that's how the Chiefs do at those positions, regardless of what their current status is with their contracts.
Right. If anything, my point, I don't have much more to add to that, but I will say I think we have a better chance of keeping both than rather losing both of them. So that's just my 2 cents. Next question. Comes from the one named Julia on YouTube. Once again, any opinions on Nick Jones and Chamari Connor? Yeah, so you guys already know I've been saying earlier on the show, Chamari Connor is a guy that I think will ultimately replace L'Jarius Sneed in 2024. He's a 2024 type player for me. I think that's when he's going to really emerge as a guy that the Chiefs will rely on as a playmaker in this defense. Yeah. I'm very high on him, and I really like the kid. I believe in the kid a lot. Nick Jones is one of those late picks that I think Brett Veach is going to hit another home run out of the That was one of my guys I was hyped on in the draft.
Yeah, I think Nick Jones is going to be a surprising piece. I think mostly it's going to be in special teams. I think to start off especially, where he's going to be a guy that makes some big tackles, makes a big opportunity where he forces a fumble and does some stuff like that. Great athlete, man. But he's a hell of an athlete. He's tall, he's long, he's fast. I think that Veach, this is, again, not to bring up L'Jarius Sneed again, but this is why he doesn't pay corners. This is why he doesn't spend a ton of money in those positions, because he continues to find guys like this deep and late into the draft. And Nick Jones, if I'm not mistaken, was a 6th, 7th round pick. Yeah. So I think that this is another guy where they're going to be like, look, found another diamond in the rough. I'm expecting good things from Nick Jones in the coming years, and Chamari Connor is a guy that I think this defense is going to be very much relying on for the next 3 to 5 years.
Gotcha. I'm trying to find here the next question. There's a lot of comments, so I'm just trying to scheme through. Chiefs concerns, shouting us out. What's going on, guys? We got a comment here from our guy Noah. Shout out Noah Gruniger. Sorry. Not reading into FAU third string, but I am worried about what if he's not ready to contribute. Karlaftis didn't really come on till late, but we had Dunlap and Clark to hold the fort down. True. FAU doesn't have that luxury this year to have a slow start.
That's 100% accurate.
That's a great point, yeah.
That's why I said the Chiefs, because of the Omenihu suspension, because Frank Clark is gone, and because of the fact that FAU was a first-round pick, the Chiefs are, fair or unfair, going to be like, look, dude, you're going to have to come in and be good. Like, we're not expecting you to become a 15-sack kind of guy your first season, because T.J. Watt and guys like that don't even do that their first seasons. But you're going to have to show us pretty early and often that we can rely on you to be effective. And then, again, I'm not trying to bring up Chris Jones, but this is another reason why Chris Jones has so much leverage here, guys, because of the fact that we're sitting here relying on rookie edge rushers to become a premier piece for this defense immediately.
Yeah.
And then Chris Jones, you put him in there, all of a sudden the pressure isn't so much on FAU, because I know that Chris Jones can get to the quarterback regardless of who's around him, and it's going to make the job easier for Karlaftis and FAU and other pass rushers that they have that are young, unproven commodities. So yes, I agree. I don't know if he's showing signs he's not ready to contribute, because, again, training camp doesn't really tell us it doesn't give us a full scope of what pass rushers are or are not. Because, I mean, go into last training camp, Trevor. Go 20 years ago when Tamba Hali was drafted. Yeah. I guarantee you weren't saying, oh, you know what, I don't really think he's got it, or I think he's going to be an absolute specimen. You can't really tell sometimes. You have to wait until the game time starts to really happen, and that's when you know these guys are the truth or not the truth. And I'm expecting FAU to be something that's closer to the truth than not the truth. So I'm not putting too much weight into what he did or didn't do in training camp, but I will start to pay much more closer attention in preseason. If he's starting to look lost out there, if he's just getting ate up, then I think we're going to have a legitimate talk about whether the Chiefs can try to talk Carlos Dunlap out of retirement or try and go and get somebody else that's out there. I would hate the idea of a Jadeveon Clowney. I think he's one of the few guys out there that's left. I would hate that, but the Chiefs might have to force their hand in going in and start scraping the barrel if FAU starts showing signs of being slow and progressing slowly, because to his point, George Karlaftis had the luxury of sitting back and having multiple veterans kind of lead the way until he caught fire. And when he caught fire, George was on fire. But yeah, FAU's got a lot on him, and I'm expecting him to take the mantle and be ready for it.
And granted, this whole situation is kind of under a microscope because of Omenihu's suspension and Chris Jones' absence right now. If those two things weren't part of reality, this wouldn't be the FAU third string roster position. Blah blah blah. What is he gonna flop? Blah. All these talking points right now wouldn't really be even a major thing. So, granted, he needs to seize the moment and really step up and showcase his talents, especially in these preseason games, and kind of show what he's capable of, and kind of put some people to ease, and kind of show what he can put on tape, and in some real NFL action, sort of, kind of. But I do believe FAU. I'm not reading into it, just like Noah said. I'm not too worried about that. That's just things change quickly in this league, right? So if he goes out there and puts together some really good practices and performs well in preseason games, he'll be right up. He'll be moving up the depth chart very quickly. So I think he's got the skill set to do so as well. Next question is from the one named Julia once again. I'm still worried about special teams. If we struggle again, could you see Andy moving away from Tobe? I think we've discussed this.
I think we did discuss this, and yes, I think it's a legitimate concern because Tobe had by far his worst season in the 10 years he's been with Kansas City last season. Yeah, special teams was very much, for the first time, a weakness.
Right.
The Chiefs have always been able to rely on special teams. Last year, definitely not the case. I think some of it was not so much Dave Tobe's fault because he had a lot of young guys he had to rely on, where he's usually had the veteran players to rely on in special teams. That wasn't the case this year. He's got more guys that I think that he can rely on. I don't think there's any excuse for Tobe to have another bad season, which is why I'm expecting him to have a much better season. I think they'll start to trend upward again because Tobe, I think, is one of the best, if not the best, special teams coach in the league, which means that you're allowed to have a down year. Every coach has a down year. I mean, Andy Reid's been fired. He went 4-12 in his last year with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Especially all the moving parts on special teams.
Yeah. So I think that Tobe will bounce back. And if he doesn't, there's real concern. I think the Chiefs need to move off of him. If he has back-to-back bad seasons, maybe it's just time to move off, and there's nothing wrong with that. It happens. Sometimes guys just peak. Sometimes just, they wear out their welcome, or they're just no longer what they once were. I still believe in Dave Tobe enough to believe that 2023 will be a bounce-back year for him and his special teams.
100%. I agree with you. Next question from our guy Brian Parrott. Do you expect Philly's unorthodox running style to be, imitated, and by who?
Well, no, I don't think. I think it'll be tried because the league's a copycat league. But you have to have the personnel in order to do so. You have to have an elite offensive line. You have to have an elite running quarterback, and you have to have good running backs in the backfield with an awesome scheme. How many teams have that? 3, 4 at most.
Right.
So I'm sure teams are going to try to implement some of the things the Eagles did, but the Eagles are a team that can do those things because they have all that personnel. They have an offensive line that is top tier. They have a top tier quarterback that can run the ball at a level that most can't. They have an awesome offensive scheme, at least back when they had Shane Steichen. We'll see what they do this year. And they had good running backs. So, and if you have that, then yeah, you can probably replicate it. But I'm not betting on that being a thing where 50 to 80% of the league's doing it. I don't think that's going to be the case. It's easier to do that with the pass game because of the fact there are really good quarterbacks out there, and the style of football is changing more towards that. It's easier for teams to replicate some of these passing schemes and passing opportunities. I don't think it's so much the same when it comes to the way the Eagles played last season. I'll go as far as to say I don't even know if the Eagles are going to be able to replicate that because it's not that easy to do so. And what they did last year was very special in what they did on both sides of the ball because they get 70-something sacks last season. I don't think that's happening again. So yeah, it's gonna be hard for them to replicate anything like that. I think that was more of a one-off.
Well, yeah, that with all the QB sneaks and stuff. I mean, teams can try to imitate it, but if we're all being honest, there's been a lot of scrutiny and amongst other teams with trying to get the league to kind of maybe try to limit or some of the make some of those plays illegal as far as like the QB sneaks because it was damn near an undefensible play.
Well, it's also an illegal play because you see the offensive line move every single time.
That's what I'm saying. So like they were getting a lot of. So if you try to imitate it, it might not be the right time. They might have got away with it last season. The NFL might start coming down on that and changing some of those.
And to bring an analogy to the equation, another sports analogy. It's like watching the NBA. Once Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and those guys were draining threes like they did, everybody tried to replicate that. And then you realize, well, you probably should have a Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Yeah. And unless you have a guy that is that great at shooting threes, you probably shouldn't replicate that style.
Yeah, they confused a skill set for a numbers game.
Right.
You don't have to be Steph Curry doesn't have to be a volume shooter. He's just extremely skilled at shooting and hitting threes in a very difficult manner.
Right.
So not everybody can just have the gifts that he has. Right. It's not necessarily. Well, it is kind of. I guess it's a question. We do have one from Chiefs Concerns.
Yeah.
He said, "When you were talking Matt Bushman, I thought of the movie line, quote, 'I want Bush, pan down,' unquote. Name that movie line."
You always try to get me on this stuff, and Marcus, I'm undefeated. You know why? That's Revenge of the Nerds, baby. 1984, Revenge of the Nerds. Suck it.
I got you again, dude. That movie would not be able to come out now.
Marcus, oh hell no. Marcus always tries to get me on these movie quotes, and I always get them, dude. I'm telling. That's a good one though. I didn't think about that either, but he got us on that one. Revenge of the Nerds, 1984. I win.
I want Bush. Oh boy. Ruben DeCruz, can Kennard play right tackle?
Okay, so
I'm glad talking points. Yeah,
I'm glad he was brought up, and to bring up Chief Concerns, they've had Darian Kennard on the show, and he said on their episode, highly recommend you guys go watch that episode from last year with Jason Dunn, Marcus Dash, and Darian Kennard. Darian Kennard told Marcus and Jason Dunn, and forgive me if I'm misquoting this, but from what I remember of the interview, he said that the Chiefs had talked to him and told him, listen, we have a plan with you. We are planning on having you compete at right tackle and right guard. So those are two spots to be watching for Darian Kennard. I told you guys I was big on Darian Kennard. I saw the way he played at Kentucky. He was an absolute madman at right tackle. Yeah. I think if he ultimately gets his chance, I think this guy could become something. We've seen this happen time and time again throughout the NFL at this position and other positions. Once they get their chance and they pop, they all of a sudden become these guys like, damn, like this guy started out as a backup. Like he's one of the best players in his position in the league now. This happens all the time. I'm not saying Darian Kennard's going to become that guy. What I'm saying is I definitely think he's got the talent to become that. If he develops into it, then I think the Chiefs have an opportunity to move off of other expensive pieces and utilize him while he's still on his rookie deal. If in fact that is ends up what ends up happening, but it's tough right now because right tackle, as many questions we have at tackle right now for the Chiefs, they're more so on the left side. I think Juwan Taylor clearly solidifies right tackle, so it's kind of jam logged, and the Chiefs have no need at right guard because they have Trey Pancake Papa Smith, and Nick Allegretti's been a guy that's been able to fill in at both guard positions.
No doubt.
So, unfortunately for Kennard, he's going to have to, I hate to say it, there's going to be a string of injuries for him to even get a shot. And I don't think that shot's happening because the Chiefs have durable, great players at those positions.
All right. Next question comes from our guy, Brian Parrott. Does the RB room sort of demand expansion of the run game to y'all? I think it might be expansion of the passing game. Does the RB room sort of demand expansion of the run game?
I think I know what he's saying, because what he's basically saying is because the fact the Chiefs have good running backs that maybe they want to run the ball more.
Okay.
I don't think so though, because of the fact that again you have to automatically, whenever you talk about the running back room in Kansas City, you have to pull Jerick McKinnon out of it and kind of look at him as a separate entity. I've always said that. Remove him out of the equation automatically, because he is more of a pass option. He's going to be a guy that's just catching the ball out of the backfield more often. He'll be running the ball. I don't think Jerick McKinnon's going to be running the ball a ton this year. He'll get his opportunities, but that's not really his specialty anymore. He's more of a glorified slot receiver, for being honest here. So that leaves three guys. Isaiah Pacheco is a guy that's always going to get his rushes, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, last year the Chiefs were in the bottom half of rush attempts because they throw the ball so damn much. That's never going to change as long as Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. The Chiefs are just not going to run the ball as much. I would like the Chiefs to run the ball a little bit more, have more of a balanced attack, but I understand when you have Patrick Mahomes, who's so great at throwing the football at all levels of the field, it's basically you're running the ball through the air. So I don't think it's going to change. And again, with Deneric Prince having the skill set of catching the ball out of the backfield, with Clyde historically in his college and NFL career being able to catch the ball out of the backfield when given the opportunity, I don't think it's going to make them run the ball more. I think that you could see, though, that running backs are going to be utilized more and more in the team and the offensive scheme as a whole. This is why I keep saying it, Trevor, and I'm going to keep saying it and saying it until I'm proved otherwise. Running backs and tight ends in this offense are going to be utilized just as much as wide receivers, because of the fact that we don't know what the Chiefs have. I know we like these young guys at wide receiver, but we don't know what they are yet. If those guys have slow starts, the running back position and the tight end position that has experience there and skill there are going to be able to be utilized a lot in the pass game. And Patrick Mahomes trusts those guys. And what you saw in 2022 was Patrick Mahomes being able to use the dump offs, play conservative, the check downs, things of that nature. He'll keep doing it if it keeps working. And I think it could continue to keep working, guys, because Travis Kelce's going to get his. I think Noah Gray's going to take another step this year. I think that you're going to see Blake Bell play situational football. He'll be the guy that does like the QB sneaks and things like that for Patrick Mahomes, because he's so big and he's just able to barrel through if he has to. And these running backs, like I said, last year you saw how effective they were. And we're not even mentioning them running the ball. Like I said, Isaiah Pacheco had, 830 rushing yards on only 170 attempts last year.
Right.
That's almost 5 yards an attempt. So that's going to continue. He will run the ball. They will be effective, but I don't think it's going to change the culture, per se, of how they do their offense.
Yeah, I mean, we have a system in place, and I think if the protection is even more suspect this year, I mean, it makes more sense to get the ball out quicker and maybe run a little bit more, but that's just never really been Andy's style. He just never really has throughout his career as a head coach. He likes to get the ball out quick, and he likes to, have a lot of confusion at the line of scrimmage for defenses and get the ball out to tight ends, get the ball out quick to, slot receivers or running backs. But like I said, especially if the offensive line is performing the way we want to, there's going to be a lot of 12-man out there. There's going to be a lot of maybe some extra protection with the tight ends and getting the ball out quick, to receivers and running backs, and possibly, other tight ends. So I agree. Next question is from our guy Brian as well. Let's see. Opponents say they're playing starters for a half. Andy's response. Basically asking what is Andy's response to? Do you think Andy is going to play?
I don't think Andy's
starters
worried
for an
about
entire
the
half.
I hate to say it, but I don't think Andy's worried about what the opposition does. If they have Derek Carr playing out there into the second quarter, that's on the Saints. I don't think it changes anything the Chiefs want to do, because I don't think the Chiefs are worried at all about the end result of the game. They're just looking at position and what they're going to do with certain positions, because some of these positions are jam-logged. Like I said, you have right tackle, you have defensive end, what the Chiefs are going to do there. You have, like I said, linebacker, you have running back, you have a lot of positions the Chiefs are going to be paying close attention to. Wide receiver, obviously with the Justin versus Justin scenario that I've been presenting. That's what they're focused on.
We do know Andy Reid loves his preseason games and takes a lot of, he plays his guy a little bit more than we probably like.
What I'm hoping, if I'm going to be honest here, is I'm hoping that Patrick Mahomes and the starting offense go out there and score a touchdown first drive, because we know that means Patrick's day's over. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm hoping for. If they can go out there and just get a quick score, Patrick goes and gets his visor and then sits there and hangs out and holds
Justin
his
Ross,
chest
80-yard touchdown.
Yeah, hell, fuck yeah, do it,
Dude,
please.
we would erupt.
Please do that, and that's what I'm saying. And then let Justin Watson catch like 7 balls from Blaine Gabbert and Shane Buechele after that. But yeah, I'm hoping that that's how it goes. But I don't think Andy Reid looks at the other side of this other sideline and says, "Oh, Derek Carr's going out. We should probably put out our second defense."
Yeah.
No, they're going to do things how they want to do. They're the team that the Saints, if anything, the Saints are going to be countering to what the Chiefs do, and I think that's how they're going to utilize their game plan.
With you. Next question from Brian as well. Do y'all believe Sky has the spirit of Juju? That's the first thing I'm looking at.
Well, I think that, yes, I think they're going to utilize Sky the same way that Juju was utilized last season in regards to being a possessions receiver. I think that's what Sky's skill set normally is because he's got really big hands.
He's
really,
better after the catch.
Yes,
though.
But he also creates really good separation. And I think that, yes, I think he will be able to be a burner when he catches the ball because he is fast. Sky's a very fast receiver. He's not built the same as Juju. Juju's much bigger than Sky is. Sky's like, 5'11".
I think the Golden Tate
5'10".
comparison was a great one.
Golden Tate's that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
They're almost the exact same size, and I think they have the same skill set.
I'll
So
take
that's where he will be utilized though as the possessions receiver.
Yeah,
I think he will definitely be the guy they utilize on third downs and things like that. But yeah, when it comes to the targets and what Juju got from the team last season, it's going to be a committee at this point. Maybe I'll be wrong, and like I said, maybe Rashee Rice becomes that first rookie receiver that pops from Andy Reid's offense in the last 10 years. Maybe Justin Watson really becomes something special. Maybe Kadarius Toney can actually play more than a month at a time. There's a lot of maybes, and if those maybes happen, then things are going to change. But Sky Moore has been one of those guys that's been able to play every week. He's been reliable physically. Let's see if he can take that next step. And if he does, then you will see him get those opportunities like Juju was getting last year.
Absolutely. Next question is from Ruben DeCruz. Is McDuffie a shutdown corner?
Yes. Trey McDuffie is a shutdown corner. The only reason why he wasn't called that last season is because he missed a lot of time last season. And his rookie season was kind of clunky. But one thing we didn't see from McDuffie was him struggling a lot. He did give up that touchdown to A.J. Brown, but it kind of got lost in the weeds. It was a deep, big old arm punt touchdown. And A.J. Brown's one of the best receivers in football, so I'll let them have that one. But other than that, Trey McDuffie, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it was like his first 6-7 weeks, he didn't give up more than like 2 first downs or 3 first downs.
He wasn't getting targeted much either.
He was shutting people down. So, yes, I think Trent McDuffie is that guy. The Chiefs were so big on him that we talked about so much today about cornerbacks and how the Chiefs build their cornerback room. They traded up for this dude in the first round. They didn't want the Bills or any of these other AFC teams to go and snag him. They went up and got him. So I fully believe that this is a dude that the Chiefs believe is going to have his own island, kind of like Revis did, now Hall of Famer. I think that, that you're going to see – I'm expecting Trent McDuffie to become an all-pro player in this league. We talked about it last week. I don't think he's going to become like a Sauce Gardner where he's the best in the league. Yeah. But I do expect Trent McDuffie will be a top 10 corner at some point of his career.
Couldn't agree more. I 100%. Next question is from Ruben as well. Thoughts on Mike Dana this year, guys?
Look, it's his contract year, and he's, 26? So it makes sense that Dana should have a big year.
Big fan.
What I love about Mike Dana, it's one of the weirdest stats ever. I think he has 10.5 career sacks. 7 of them are against the AFC West.
Don't hate it.
70% of this man's career sacks have come against divisional foes.
Don't hate it.
And I think 4 of them are against the Chargers. And you know that the Chargers are going to be a team
that he dominates them.
It's so weird. It's so freaking weird. I love
He's the one that hurt Herbert, right?
Yeah, he's the one. Yeah, he cracked his ribs. So
don't want to hurt anybody, but still, that was a great hit.
I obviously temper my expectations with Mike Dana because he's more of a rotational guy, middle tier player. I don't think he's ever going to become anything like super
Takes
special.
Takes advantage of his moments, though.
But I would not be shocked if Mike Dana has a career year in sacks this year. I would not be shocked because we know that defenses are going to be watching Chris Jones, watching FAU, watching George Karlaftis, watching Charles Omenihu. Well, Mike kind of gets lost in that mix. And I wouldn't be shocked if he has a couple 2-sack games. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, no Colin Saunders to play around either. You know what I mean?
So, I really would not be shocked if there's a couple games this season where, dude, Mike Dana got 2.5 sacks tonight. Like, holy shit.
Against the Chargers.
Yeah, it probably will be, too, honestly. So, yes, I think he's going to have a really good season to his standards. I'm not saying he's going to have 10, 15 sacks. I could see him having 7-8 sacks this year. I really do. I really could see him having 7-8 sacks this year.
More opportunity.
And get himself paid this next offseason with another team.
Love it. Ruben, one more question here. Do you think we bring back the deep ball?
Yes. Oh, and we talked about this, about how, although I did say just a few minutes ago that Patrick Mahomes is very much comfortable now with the dump offs, the check downs, things of that nature. He's really evolved his game as a quarterback. But I do, and you even seen it in training camp over the last couple of days. Our Star K Media, our umbrella company here, has been showing the videos of MVS and Patrick really connecting on the deep ball at practice. I don't think there's a coincidence there. I do think that, and some of these young guys that they have at their wide receiver position are deep threats. So I do think that some of these guys are going to be getting deep passes, and I do think because of the evolution of Patrick Mahomes' game, defenses are going to try to counter to the counter now. It's always chess games with defenses and great quarterbacks. Now defenses are going to start pressing him a little bit, and if you notice, last season when Patrick Mahomes started to show that I'm just going to keep checking the shit down and it's going to keep working, you saw the 49ers, you saw the Bengals, and other defenses start to press up. And Patrick literally says in the quarterback Netflix series, he goes, "You guys, I watch film. I got film.
Oh, really, fool?
Oh, man, I got film." And he started, what did he do in those games? Started torching them downfield. How many deep balls did he have against the Niners in that second half? Yep. How many deep balls did he have against the Bengals in that, was it week 13, 14 matchup? Like, you saw that he's like, all right, bet. You want to press man coverage? I'll have my burners go down. I'll torch you downfield. No big deal. I have an offensive line that I can trust enough to give me 3 seconds to hit somebody downfield. So, yes, Ruben, I do expect, I'm not saying it's going to be 2018 again where he's just chucking the ball downfield all night, but I do think he will pick his spots, and you will have resemblances of 2018 again. We love those deep balls, man. That's one of my favorite things, seeing Patrick chuck that ball downfield and hit somebody for a 60-yard bomb. Those will happen again, and it was happening last season, but I do think it will happen on a more normal occasion this year than it did in 2022.
Absolutely. Go balls deep, baby. Next question, Brian Perry, I believe this is our last question as of now. Do y'all think it hurts the new linemen not having Chris Jones to observe and emulate?
No, I don't think that. That's something that I think it gets a little overrated in training camp, is when, well, you're going against this. Because, okay, look at it like this. Patrick Mahomes, this defense gets to go against Patrick Mahomes every single day at training camp and practice. How did that help the defense in 2018? It was one of the worst in the league. So I don't think that really, sure, it can help with certain like one-on-one matchups where a player can get better and more galvanized, but as a unit, you are what you are. And I think that if your coach is as good as he is, that's why the Chiefs changed from Bob Sutton to Steve Spagnuolo, because they maxed out with Bob Sutton. They needed to move off when we got Spags, and you saw the difference. Yep. Spags has had his struggles and inconsistencies, but you've seen the defense get better and better as the seasons have gone on, and as the season goes on, that's what Spags is known for. I think for the offensive line, being so solidified up front, it wouldn't matter if they had Chris Jones or not, because these guys have already proven themselves. Creed, Trey, and Joe Tooney are the 3 best guard center combinations in the NFL. Outside of the Eagles, there's not an offensive line that has a better front 3 than the Chiefs. Right. So I don't think it matters if they're going against Chris Jones or not. We already know what these guys are. These aren't young, inexperienced dudes now. These are Super Bowl champions. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, and there's no excuses
no.
At the end of the day. Chris Jones being absent is not an excuse for someone to be not performing or
100%.
Or evolving as a player.
100%.
All right, that is it for the questions, man.
Awesome time.
Wait, I think we have one.
Oh, yeah,
no,
go.
That's it. No, that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Trevor's messing with me here. I'm over here on skates now. I don't know where I'm going.
Well, one more comment popped up, but it wasn't a question.
Okay. Well, hey, you guys are freaking awesome. We just spent almost an hour exactly answering questions, getting back to you guys. Keep them coming. Even when we're not on live, hit us up in the comments, man. Hit us up, subscribe, hit like, notifications, all that stuff, man. Join us here. Our subscribers are going up, but we know we can continue to get better, and it's with your guys' help. We really appreciate that. Keep that going, guys. Keep the comments coming. Keep the questions coming every single week. Absolutely. We're so excited every single time we get to talk to you guys. We appreciate all the contributions. Trevor, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called? Hold this L. Each and every episode, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who is ever holding those L's in the world of sports, deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you this week?
All right, so it was a little bit of a slow week as far as L's go, for me anyways. But there was a story that came out that hasn't been talked about too much. Anytime there's someone who is a very wealthy person or an owner or a CEO of a team or is worth billions of dollars, and they're tied to some kind of corruption or some kind of issues with illegal activity that involves their integrity as a person, because when you have power, it can obviously be corrupt, and ultimate power tends to be corrupt most of the time. There was a report that came out. Jed York, the CEO and owner, the CEO of the San Francisco 49ers, Let me just read this here. It says, Jed York is in some legal hot water as he has been accused of insider trading. While he's also thought to be involved in another cheating scandal, York, the CEO of the San Francisco 49ers, joined the franchise as president after his parents transitioned to the position of co-chairman. Jed is the son of owners John and Dennis DeBartolo York. He is also a board member of Chegg, an online educational tech company. According to the San Francisco's Chronicle, Lance Williams and Ron Krochikon, the 43-year-old has been hit with 2 lawsuits, the first of which accuses him of insider trading in violations of federal securities laws. This allegation ties in position on the Chegg board. The second one is that York and other directors of Chegg, Inc. stand accused of concealing the company's role in helping college students cheat on online exams. The aforementioned publication is reporting that Chegg's stock went up during the pandemic due to students turning to them for real-time answers and to aid with their online exams. It's understood that the stock price crashed after colleges reopened their doors, given the students went back to writing physical exams and can no longer use the technology to cheat. The civil suits accuse the Chegg board of gross mismanagement, unjust enrichment, and making false, misleading statements in the SEC's filing in connection with Chegg's schemes to profit the cheating scandal. The report notes. The legal document also claimed that the CEO used his position for insider trading purposes and made millions and millions of dollars. This is why I don't always get. This is why I don't always belittle anyone's statement when it comes up about, like, cheating in the game, because we've seen it in all sports. We've seen referees have money on things and throw games in the NBA. We've seen trainers in the UFC have guys throw fights, and we've seen there's obviously been a lot of speculation about the NFL and certain things as far as referees or you name it. There's always been like these rigged narratives that come about. This is why I don't always, obviously I don't believe the game is rigged, but when people that are worth billions of dollars and are obviously coming out, nothing's been proven yet, but there's a ton of allegations on these big owners and CEOs of these teams that continue to be tied to certain things like this. It should give you pause to the integrity of these owners and these CEOs of these teams and what they're doing because if they can cheat in that kind of magnitude, who's to say they can't throw some bones to some players or something like that to take a playoff or persuade someone to do something that they shouldn't in order to impact a game for money purposes, monetary gain. I hate seeing things like this, especially when it comes from the top of these people that are worth billions that are really pulling a lot of the strings behind closed doors. Whether he is pulling the strings as far as football goes, he's probably someone who's a CEO of the team that's making profit from the team just being the team. So I'm not saying that there's any kind of collusion or any kind of insider trading as far as the sport goes, but just knowing that someone like that at the top of that franchise is in some hot water such as that is a big deal. Hopefully he gets booted if anything does come out that he's a part of it, but just the fact that optically this is a bad look. So for that whole segment, Mr. CEO, do me a solid favor and hold this L.
I actually thought it was a pretty rich week of L-worthy material, so I actually have 2.
There's some low-hanging fruit.
There's some and there's some pretty blatant ones that people have been talking about and nobody's been talking about, and I'm going to get to the nobody's going to be talking about in just a second. But one everyone's been talking about is we all know that the Baltimore Orioles have been a very surprising team all season. No one's been anticipating that the Orioles are going to be this good, and they're one of the better teams in baseball. So you would think that everybody in the Orioles side of things would be feeling good about themselves, and it's all good vibes, no big deal, everything's cool. Well, their broadcaster, Kevin Brown, their TV announcer, Kevin Brown, who's one of the best in the majors, by the way, had himself a very fun-filled week, if you will, where he did nothing but state facts in this last week's game against the Tampa Bay Rays, and talked about the struggles that the Orioles have been having against the Rays historically, and now where the Orioles are, and I want you guys to listen to this because the first person I saw tweet about it was Robert Griffin III. And he said he should not have been suspended for what he said. And I'm like, okay, let me listen to this audio because maybe it's a controversial statement and it kind of leaves, up for the viewing and listening audience to decide whether it was controversial or not. listen to what is being said, and you tell me if you hear a single controversial word out of Kevin Brown's mouth and why he should have been suspended.
Orioles, Brandon Hyde has felt like this has been maybe the toughest ballpark to play in, but the Orioles have a chance to do something special today. They've already clinched at least a split in the series, winning 2 of the first 3, and they can pick up a series win behind Tyler Wells today. It's been a minute. The Orioles split a 2-gamer with the Rays in June. They had lost their last 15 series here at Tropicana Field. You have to go back to when our now colleague Brad Brock picked up the win in the series finale, June 25th, 2017, the last time the Orioles won a series here at St. Pete. Already got 3 and 2 at the Trop this year after winning 3 of 18 the previous 3 years combined. It is a stark difference, Ben, and it is not a bad Rays team. It's not like all of a sudden the Rays became slouches in the American League East. They've led this division every day, but now 2, and the Orioles once again are back alone in first place. For the Orioles.
How dare he? How horrible.
Can you guys help me out on this one? I listened to that probably 4 or 5 times when I heard that Kevin Brown got suspended for that. The man literally just stated the facts that the Orioles and Rays have had problems with the Rays. That's a fact. It wasn't like he sit here and go, yeah, I'm sitting here calling the shitty-ass game for the shitty-ass Orioles team that's been shitty against the Rays all these years, and one of our guys, was the last one to pick a W up from the, against the Rays here at Tropicana. Like, he wasn't saying anything derogatory. He simply just stated the facts about what the Orioles have been and where they're at now and how awesome it is that they're now in a position to do what they're doing. This is the first time the Orioles have been in first place in the AL East in 30 years in August. By this point in August. It hasn't happened in 30 years, guys. Cal Ripken was playing for the team last time they did this. These are times where you should be, like, I remember when the Royals in 2014-15, when that was all going on, everything was good. And when you brought up the historics of it and how long it's been, no one was sitting here going, how dare the announcer bring that up? We were sitting here going, damn, it's been that long. Like, it feels good to finally happen. The Orioles managed to make this into a negative thing. And so now instead of talking about the team that's very well on their way to potentially being a team that can win the pennant, you're sitting here focusing on how your crowd is now screaming and chanting, free Kevin Brown, free Kevin Brown. And so it's so bad right now with the Orioles production team. Check this out, Trevor. Their play-by-play radio guy got suspended because he didn't wear an Orioles shirt on radio. And guess who filled in for him for that day, Trevor? Kevin Brown. Wow. So the guy that they suspended on television filled in for their play-by-play guy on radio.
Show.
It's an absolute joke what's going on. And for that, Orioles, you do me a solid. You ain't doing this a lot on the field, but today you're going to have to hold this L. I lied. I said I had only one more L. I actually have another one, Trevor, before I get to my final one, because you know what? It was an L-worthy week, and as I almost knocked my fucking microphone off the table. So I don't know if you guys have been hearing, but players in the league, I've never been a guy that's like, this generation's softer than the previous. And I've never been a guy that does that because I think that's bullshit because 20 years ago, people were saying that about our father's generation, about how it's the softest generation ever. And just generation after generation does that to themselves.
History repeats itself.
History just continues to repeat themselves. Well, what's happening in Washington is nothing short of soft because our former OC out here in Kansas City, Eric Bieniemy, took over the assistant coach / offensive coordinator position for the Washington Commanders. And what we're hearing out of camp from the Washington Commanders is nothing short of hilarious. So we have actual quotes, and I want to find those quotes for you guys so we can actually talk about this in great detail because I think it's worthy of that so nothing gets misconstrued as I continue to look for it. I'm sorry, guys. But basically what's come down with the Commanders, yeah, here it is. So this is from Nikki Jablava. He is Nikki Jablava is a Washington NFL reporter for the Washington Post. This is the comments about asked Ron Rivera about Eric Bieniemy. Here's the direct quotes. Have players had to adapt to Eric Bieniemy's intensity and have any struggled with it at times? This is Ron Rivera, a guy that I've greatly respected and has been a respected coach across the league. Quote, yeah, they have. And one of the biggest things is I've had a number of guys come to me and I've said, hey, just go talk to him, I said. Understand what he's trying to get across to you. I think as they go and they talk and they listen to him, it's been enlightening for a lot of these guys. I mean, it's a whole different approach. Again, you're getting a different kind of player from the players back in the past, especially in light of how things are coming out of college football. So a lot of these young guys, they do struggle with certain things, and a lot of it is from where they've been. I mean, guys come from certain programs and are used to it. Guys coming from other programs aren't as much. So us as a coach, I kind of have to assimilate and to get a feel for everybody. Eric has an approach, and it's the way he does things, and it's not going to change because he believes in it. Jack Del Rio has his approach. Having been a head coach, I think Jack has a tendency to try and figure out guys a little bit more as opposed to, hey, this is it, this is the way it's going to be. That type of stuff, Eric hasn't had that experience yet, end quote. And then there's another follow-up question. When they come to you, it's just they felt like Eric was writing them too hard? Ron Rivera, quote, well, they were just a little concerned, end quote. In other words, Eric Bieniemy isn't wiping these guys' asses delicately enough. I don't know about you guys, but I remember these last 5 years and the Chiefs not only having great success as a team, but having the number one offense in the league. I'd like to believe the offensive coordinator has something to do with that. Now, Andy Reid obviously runs things, and Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in football. So Eric Bieniemy's job to some might be deemed as easier, but by no means can we discredit what this man did here in Kansas City. That's why Trevor and I said that we felt that it was time for him to move on because he can no longer prove himself anymore in Kansas City because everyone kept trying to discredit what he was as a coach by saying, well, of course he's great. He's got all these fucking weapons, even though, Josh McDaniels had not one but two coaching opportunities when he had Tom Brady and Bill Belichick leading the way. Right. But, neither here nor there. But Eric Bieniemy had to move on because he can't get a head coaching job for some damn reason. We now know what it is. He's too rough on grown men. That's sad. Never mind the fact, Trevor, that some of the greatest coaches of all time that gets praised nonstop in all these leagues were some of the biggest red asses in the history of all sports. Right. Bobby Knight, Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, all these guys are red asses. And everybody loves them. Everybody praises them. Greg Popovich hates the media, treats them like shit, and all these other things that people say. But everybody, oh my God, they're the greatest thing ever. Why doesn't Eric Bieniemy get that same treatment?
It doesn't add to his lore.
I wonder what it is that causes that. It's weird. I don't know. We could speculate on that another time. But the point is, Ron Rivera himself ends up backpedaling like a Sean Payton special, where he comes out and says, "Yeah, I had to tell him I put my foot in my mouth. I had to apologize to him because in the reality of all this, we all know that Eric Bieniemy's not doing anything wrong." Sure, Ron Rivera has to be a little bit more, middling with the guys. He has to kind of take things a little bit more with a grain of salt because you're the head coach, dude. Everyone's looking at you. You have to answer for everything. But your OCs, your DCs, your special teams coaches, they have to be a little bit more brazen because they're the ones that have to get these guys' attention. If everyone's soft and cuddly and coddling to these guys, they're never going to get their attention ran. Everything's going to be tone deaf. And yes, these guys have been spoiled in other programs, but when you're at the top level, the pressure is so much greater. And that's why I loved what Eric Bieniemy said at his press conference. He goes, "This is my job." And you've seen Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, guys that he's had legitimate problems with on the sidelines and inside the locker room say, this is who he is. He'll always have your back. He'll always be there for you. You have to take what he gives you, guys. And I have to believe that this has only made certain players like Patrick Mahomes, like Travis Kelce, and other guys like that better players. Because if you don't want to get yelled at, then do your fucking job. That's the whole point here. Don't be afraid of getting yelled at. Don't be afraid of having a coach MNF and MFing you. Be more worried about messing up. That should be the concern. So it shouldn't shock us, though, that a loser franchise is having this type of problem from a winning guy like him when he has just as many rings as Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio combined. I guess that should be something we should have assumed.
Feelings.
But in the meantime, Commanders and all you soft asses over there, do me a solid and hold this L. My final one, and I'm wrapping this one up quickly, but I'm very much into the equality standpoint of things. And when it comes to praise, it also should be on the side of criticism. I don't think the U.S. women's national team's gotten enough criticism. And today they need a hold an L from us.
Whoa.
I know. Before the Women's World Cup started, the women were a minus 50,000. Let me say that again. A minus 50,000 favorite to win the World Cup. They had already won the previous 2, and they were by far, at an historic level, the favorite to win this year's World Cup. And they lost in the group stages. And we have been hearing from former players like Carly Lloyd calling out the team, saying that they're taking things too loosely. Because as I recall, I'm watching the commercials that were leading into the World Cup. They were like, they have these little scenarios in the commercials. Where like, how are you going to stop Megan Rapinoe? How are you going to stop Alex Morgan? And they're like coming up with all these funny theories. And then you see Alex Morgan go, "Good luck with that." And they like have this cute little commercial. Yeah, where were those same people in that commercial? Where were they on the field? Oh, that's right. They got too busy tying teams that they should have been whooping 6-0, and then losing to the one good team, Sweden, that they actually faced. I'm sorry, man. We praise these women because they deserve to be praised for winning back-to-back World Cups. That is insanely awesome. But then they have this hype around them about being this team that's just going to walk through the World Cup again, and they get knocked out way too early, and no one's talking about it. They should be criticized because I guarantee you, if the U.S. men's national team was a minus 50,000 favorite to win and they got knocked out in the group stage, it's headlining every single sports show, and we're criticizing and crucifying every single one of those players, especially their top dogs. But no one's talking about Megan Rapinoe choking at the end in the free kick. No one's talking about the fact they got out down 5-4 in the free kicks. No one's talking about it. But we are here. And for that, U.S. women's national team, do me a solid and
hold this L.
Gonna get canceled, don't care. It's been a fun show, guys. We absolutely love this. The group, the chats that we've been having in the group settings, guys, on our YouTube channel, it only gets better and better each and every week, and we're so grateful for you guys. We appreciate every single one of you, but we're not done. We need to get to a bigger and better stage and presence with all the people out there. We know there are thousands upon thousands of Chiefs fans out there, and we're trying to reach all you guys, but it's not even Chiefs fans, man. We talk all different types of sports, MMA, MLB, whatever you guys want to talk
Women's
about, you guys
soccer.
bring it up. Yes, I'm clearly just talking about soccer, and like I said, it's probably going to get me suspended from my own show for a week, but that is what we do here, man, and we're going to continue to do so. We have fun every single week because you guys make it fun. So for that, I just hope that you guys had a blast today. Enjoy preseason football as much as you possibly can. We know we'll try our best. There's some good MMA fights on tonight as well if you guys want to check that out. I know Trevor and I will be doing that. But yeah, if you guys have any other comments, current concerns, questions, whatever you guys have for us, hit us up on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the notification button so every time we go live, you see it. Hit the like button, and then more importantly, like I said, the fourth and final step, hit the comment bar. Let us know what you guys got for us, man. We love it every single week. We appreciate all of you guys so much. And hit up Starcade Media. They have a lot of great shows throughout the week as well, especially during the football season. So for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Windler that puts all this together on the back end, I am Lance Twidwell. The Spoken Podcast, episode 229, is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here for 1 week's time for episode 230, we out of this bitch.
Later.